The first sequence this video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 301, Just Playing Landlord. According to Ren Xiaosu's idea, he would create some chaos among the refugees, and then they would take the opportunity to escape. After all, this place is not suitable for staying for a long time. Ren Xiaosu had already planned that he could leave immediately after he could walk on the ground. Now he couldn't go north because he had no identity. The road to the north was full of Yang's troops, and they couldn't get through at all. Going east was not an option either, because the experimental subjects were still there. Going south was even worse, because it was now the main battlefield of the Yang, Li, and Qing families. After the Yang and Qing families successfully broke through the first line of defense, they immediately joined forces to approach the south, beating the Li family to pulp. So now they could only go west. To the west was a mountain range that stretched for hundreds of kilometers. It was said that few people could pass through there, and no one knew what was inside. But Ren Xiaosu and his team had only this one way to go. At least using abilities like thorns and vines, it was not a problem to live there for a few years. But when the explosion sounded, Yang's troops came too fast. The two reinforced companies seemed to have prepared an emergency plan long ago. The searchlights around them instantly made the entire camp as bright as day, and the soldiers patrolling around immediately loaded their guns and went on martial law. Ren Xiaosu frowned at the door. The military quality of Yang's troops was stronger than he thought. No wonder they could beat Li's troops on the front battlefield. It seemed that Yang had been preparing for this war for a long time. At this time, Yang's officers came to the explosion site. Ren Xiaosu watched quietly on the periphery. The other refugees hid far away and dared not approach. The camp had been peaceful. Who knew that such an accident would suddenly occur? However, what surprised Ren Xiaosu was that the people in the room were not all dead. There was still one person lying on the ground gasping for breath and whispering for help. It seems that the power of 4-3S is limited, Ren Xiaosu sighed, but he didn't worry that if someone survived, others would be able to find him through some clues. The combination of Shadow Gate and Exploding Poker is a magical tool for secret explosions. Within a kilometer range, you can blow up anything you don't like. Now, the accuracy of the Shadow Gate controlled by Ren Xiaosu has been reduced to within 1 meter, which has basically no effect. After the integration of his skills, Shadow plus City Destruction can be used for frontal confrontation, Shadow Gate plus Exploding Poker can be used for long-range ambush, and there is also a skill for stabbing in the back in person. Overall, there are no obvious shortcomings. Yang's officer stood beside the survivor and asked, "Why did the explosion happen? Did you hide weapons? Tell me, are you a hidden spy?" The explosion just now was as powerful as 2 grenades. Although the sound was a bit wrong, it could also be other explosive weapons. It was wartime, so Yang's soldiers subconsciously thought of it as spies, although they didn't know why the bomb exploded. The survivor shouted in injustice, "Sir, we are not spies. I was watching them play landlord outside, and suddenly someone played a bomb with 4-3S, and the bomb exploded." The survivor suddenly felt that the officer's expression was not right, and the officer was so angry that he laughed. "You mean you were watching others play landlord, and then someone played a bomb with 4-3S, and the bomb exploded?" The survivor nodded frantically, "Yes, yes, yes. That's what happened, and there was already a 3, and I don't know where the 4-3S came from. Do you want to tell me what cards you played?" The officer said expressionlessly. "I can't remember." "Haha," the officer said gloomily. "Do you think I'm easy to fool? Drag him away and interrogate him overnight to see if he has any accomplices in the camp. All other refugees, lie down where the sentry can see you and start doing push-ups." Ren Xiaosu listened for a long time. He knew that what the survivor said was ridiculous, but it was true. "Brother," Yan Liwen said, "what should we do? If there is no chance, then wait a little longer. You should also pay attention to the terrain over the construction site these days," Ren Xiaosu said. "Maybe there's still a chance over there." The construction site was in the wilderness, and he ran into the woods. If it was just Ren Xiaosu and Yan Liwen, he would have run away long ago, but there were other people in the team, more than 30 people in total. If he ran, he would be too conspicuous, and the girls and the wounded could be caught up at any time. Yan Liwen thought for a while and said, "There's not much chance over there, unless you recover and lead everyone to fight." "That's the last resort," Ren Xiaosu said. After speaking, Ren Xiaosu went back to the house and continued to lie down pretending to be wounded. It's not pretending, he is really injured. Although there is no chance to escape this time, it is a good thing to solve a hidden danger. After all, those refugees are wild, and the fighting habits cultivated in the wilderness may really threaten the people around Ren Xiaosu. At this time, the survivor was carried by Yang's soldiers to the battalion commander of the reinforcement company. The survivor suddenly shouted, "Sir, I suspect that Yan Liwen and his men did it. Our boss just had some conflicts with him tonight. He said that he would kill them on the construction site tomorrow, but they took the initiative." This must be the case. Ren Xiaosu is stunned in the room. This guy is not stupid. He guessed the truth at once. Oh, no, this is because you started biting people in fear, and Ren Xiaosu and his men are indeed the most suspicious. Officer Yang looked at Yan Liwen and others suspiciously. When he saw Wang Fuge, he was stunned for a moment and said, "So it was you." Wang Fuge quickly smiled flatteringly. "Sir, he is slandering us. We didn't leave the house just now. You can ask the people next to us. We are so far away from their house. If it was us who did it, someone must have seen us there." The officer looked around and said, "Has anyone seen them near the explosion site? There is a reward for telling the truth, and you don't have to work anymore." However, there was silence nearby. Some people said that they saw Wang Fuge and others coming out of the house after seeing the explosion. Wang Fuge is a familiar person to the soldiers. Even if they are indifferent, they will trust familiar people a little more. And there are people testifying beside them, which greatly increases Wang Fuge's credibility. The officer sneered at the survivor, "I don't care how many lies you tell now. There are plenty of ways to make you tell the truth later." The survivor was about to cry. He just watched others play landlord. However, after the officer brought the survivors back, he thought about it carefully and said, "Keep a close eye on Wang Fuge and his group recently. Tell me immediately if there is any unusual movement." Chapter 302 Creating Chaos. The interrogation of the refugee was very brutal from the beginning. The refugee insisted that someone threw a bomb with 43s, which caused the house to explode. How could anyone believe this? After the refugee finished speaking, the soldier in charge of the interrogation felt that his IQ was insulted, so he hit harder. Slowly, the refugee's consciousness began to blur, and he admitted that he was a spy. Most people in this world cannot withstand torture. The Order Department was originally a department specializing in this. According to them, unless there are faith, no tough guy can withstand torture. After the refugee admitted that he was a spy, Yang's soldiers and officers were relieved that they had found the spy. But during this process, they themselves felt that something was wrong. At first, the officer just instinctively judged based on the explosion that there might be spies mixed in with the refugees. But he was not stupid, and he could naturally distinguish some things that were wrong after calming down. The officer asked, "But if those refugees were spies, why would they blow themselves up? This doesn't make sense, and there are no spies who gather together to work together." A soldier puzzled, "Those refugees may have discovered some details of the spies' actions, so they were killed to silence them." "That's very possible," the officer said in a deep voice. "I asked you to observe Wang Fuge and his group before. Did you find anything?" "Yes." The soldier became interested when he talked about Yan Liwen and others. "I found that there is someone wrong among them." "Who?" The officer looked over. "It's a refugee named Li Qingzheng," the soldier said excitedly. "Ha ha ha, he's so unlucky, he was walking and, ha ha ha." He couldn't hold back his laughter for more than 10 minutes, and the officer's face turned black. He slapped the soldier in the face. "Have you laughed enough?" The soldier's laughter stopped abruptly. He found that his superior was a little angry, so he quickly added, "This Li Qingzheng is really unlucky, but he is also very lucky. Unlucky is just a very small thing, but every time he is unlucky, he can find food." This is not what the officer wanted to hear at all. Someone even found a potato field inexplicably. Nothing is strange in the wilderness. At this time, the officer asked, "Is there anything else strange about that team?" "Oh, that's right," said the soldier. "There are a lot of wounded in their team, which is a bit strange." "Why is it strange to have wounded?" the officer asked puzzledly. "There are actually not many wounded among our refugees," the soldier explained, "because the wounded could not escape from the barrier at that time, And this group of people was relatively united, and they actually carried all the wounded out. I asked other people, and they said that the wounded were there when they left the barrier, and then a group of people took turns carrying the wounded, and they carried the wounded here. That means they have a good relationship, the officer said. I heard that the one named Ren Xiaosu is seriously injured. Yes, the doctor said that he had more than a dozen fractures, and even a comminuted fracture, and he had been in a coma before, said the soldier. Wait, the officer was stunned for a moment. More than a dozen fractures? There is no trace of artillery fire on his body, and there is no sign of burning on his hair. There is no external injury. How did these more than a dozen fractures come from? The soldier was also stunned. How could he have such serious fractures without any external injuries? Go, the officer said, check the wounds of those people to see if there are any gunshot wounds. I want to reinterrogate the survivor, bring him here. As soon as he finished speaking, the soldier led a team to run to Ren Xiaosu and the others, and pushed the door open when they arrived at the room where Ren Xiaosu and the others were. Wang Fui wanted to go up and talk to him, but was pushed away by the soldier. The soldiers came to Wang Yuqi and lifted up his trouser legs, but there were only shallow bruises on his legs, and some places had external injuries, oozing blood. The soldier was stunned for a moment. He thought about it, and immediately asked someone to bring paper and pen, and then said to Ren Xiaosu and the others, you are not allowed to have any communication with each other. Write down the reasons for your injuries. After Ren Xiaosu and the other 6 people finished writing, the soldier took it up and took a look. Although the words used to describe it were different, they all said that they were hit by other vehicles on the way to escape from the barrier. The soldier frowned and lifted up Ren Xiaosu's clothes, but found that Ren Xiaosu's injuries were all bruises and external injuries, but they were only a little more serious than Wang Yuqi and the others. The soldier said nonchalantly, so it was a car accident. You guys should have a good rest then. He led the team away after saying that. He really had no other questions. Ren Xiaosu calmly watched the soldiers leave. Wang Yuqi whispered, squad leader, how did you know they would come to check the wounds? Wang Yuqi and his men had originally been shot, but after using the black medicine, they healed in 3 days, so nothing could be seen at all. The bruises on their bodies were specially made by Ren Xiaosu a few days ago, including the bruises all over Ren Xiaosu's body, just to prevent anyone from checking. Ren Xiaosu said, I don't know either, just in case. Wang Yuqi and others were stunned for a moment. They originally thought that Ren Xiaosu was too cautious. When Ren Xiaosu faked his injuries 2 days ago, they were still wondering if they were overly concerned. After all, it was quite painful to create bruises. But now it seems that Ren Xiaosu is right. There is nothing wrong with being cautious. Brother, they are beginning to doubt us, Yan Liwen whispered. Yes, Ren Xiaosu nodded, it's not a big problem, everything is under control. At this time Ren Xiaosu sighed. It seemed that he had to come up with a trump card. At night, the officer reinterrogated the refugee. Tell me, how did Xiao Junpeng become enemies with Yan Liwen and others? Xiao Junpeng felt that Yan Liwen was very good at finding food, so he wanted to take this kid in for his own use, but Yan Liwen scolded him, the refugee prisoner said, and before you came, Yan Liwen had killed several people for his brother. He was very cruel. Xiao Junpeng planned to just kill this kid. Oh, the officer nodded, and then you got into trouble that night? Where did the playing cards come from? The refugee said, Sir, the playing cards were given to us as a reward by you who were eliminated. The officer raised his eyebrows, so you mean, I blew you up? No, no, the refugee shook his head, those 4-3s are new, different from the cards you gave me. At this moment, a hand suddenly appeared in the void and threw 4-3s on the table between the two of them, and then disappeared from the hand. The officer was stunned for a moment. Is this the card? The refugees nodded quickly. Yes, yes, yes. Officer, fuck. With a loud bang, the tents of the reinforced company were blown into the sky. At the same time, violent explosions were heard in many places throughout the refugee camp, and the refugees fled crying. Chapter 303, Crisis and Yang Xiaojun's Rescue. Refugees are frightened birds. Some people even dream about all that at midnight and wake up in shock. So when the explosion started, someone among the refugees shouted that there was going to be another war, run, and the other refugees followed him and fled everywhere without thinking. They couldn't even tell where the explosions came from. It must be said that the Shadow Gate plus the exploding pokers were really unpredictable. No one knew where the next bomb would appear. In fact, Ren Xiaosu could have used this method to create chaos a long time ago, but he was a little sorry for the thank you coins and didn't want to use them. Originally, his thank you coins were already over 900, and he was about to unlock new weapons. As a result, this time the thank you coins dropped to more than 800 again. Ren Xiaosu threw more than 10 decks of exploding pokers, which were composed of 4-3 bombs, out in one breath. As for the more powerful ones, he still held them in his hand and didn't use them. When he was about to throw them, he planned to throw them somewhere randomly to cause some casualties, so that the effect of chaos would be better. But at that moment, Ren Xiaosu somehow thought of Chen Wudi, and then threw the bombs in an unmanned area and near the Yang's sentry post. If it were before, why would Ren Xiaosu hesitate for half a second? After all, that beam of light, after all, remained. Ren Xiaosu and his companions mixed with the crowd and wanted to go west. Yang's soldiers all rushed to the tent to save their own people, so they had no time to care about the movements of the refugees. Many refugees rushed out of the refugee camp, and the soldiers on the sentry post just fired 2 warning shots and gave up, because the fear of death made the refugees crazy, and they couldn't stop them at all. Yan Liwen always stayed by Ren Xiaosu's side, because Ren Xiaosu's body was still very fragile. He had to prevent someone from accidentally knocking Ren Xiaosu down. The bones that were finally spliced together, if they were damaged at this time, I'm afraid it would be even more painful to repair them. So when someone approached Ren Xiaosu, Yan Liwen would directly push them out. "Brother, where are we going?" Yan Liwen asked. "The forest to the west," Ren Xiaosu said. "Let's hide in the forest." However, at this moment, there was a roar of engines in the south. Ren Xiaosu stopped and looked to the south. There were dozens of troop transport trucks returning from the front line. This convoy was definitely not coming for them. Although some soldiers called for reinforcements after the incident in the refugee camp, no matter how well trained the Yang family was, it was impossible for them to come so quickly. So, this was the Yang family's troops who retreated from the front line of the battlefield to repair. What bad luck, Ren Xiaosu sighed. He wasted so many gratitude points just to create an opportunity to leave, but unfortunately, it was not as he wished. He happened to meet the Yang family's troops returning from the front line at this time. Ren Xiaosu turned around and led the team back. They had no chance to confront the Yang family's regular army head-on. But the convoy had discovered the chaos in the refugee camp. They instantly divided into several teams to intercept the refugees, and the refugees stopped. These refugees were like docile sheep that had been tamed. When they saw the sheepdog, they would subconsciously obey. The soldiers who jumped off the car forced all the refugees back with guns. "Go back to your houses, and those who disobey orders will be shot on the spot." The refugees walked back, and at this time they also found that the explosions had stopped. An officer with the rank of lieutenant colonel shouted, "Where's the person in charge of the refugee camp? Why is there a riot?" A soldier from a reinforced company ran out, "Report to the commander, I don't know why there are explosions everywhere in the refugee camp. The refugees are frightened and fled. Our company commander has died." The lieutenant colonel was stunned for a moment. "Didn't you carefully confiscate the weapons of these refugees? Didn't you say to be careful of spies mixed in?" "We confiscated them carefully, but we don't know where their bombs came from," the soldier replied. "I think this matter is a bit strange. There have been explosions before. I suspect it is related to this matter." "Tell me what happened," the lieutenant colonel asked. The refugees stood numbly outside the house and listened. The camp was full of smoke and dust, and there were houses on fire. Fortunately, the distance between the barracks was not close, so there was no large-scale burning. The soldier looked around and said, "Before, a group of refugees were suddenly killed in the house by a bomb. We were investigating the murderer, but we were also bombed. Although we don't know how the other party did it, I'm afraid the two things are related." "Are there any suspects?" the lieutenant colonel said. "Yes," the soldier said, "we investigated this group of suspects and then the incident happened." At this time, Ren Xiaosu's nanorbits were buzzing in his body, and he was quickly adjusting his state. If there was an irreversible accident, then he would have to kill it. His life was saved by someone who risked his life, and no one else could take it away. Ren Xiaosu said, "I was actually wrong about this matter." Ren Xiaosu was a person who was good at reflecting on himself. From killing refugees to creating chaos now, although he seemed to be very cautious and well prepared, it was not the case if he thought about it carefully. Although the refugees wanted to kill Yan Liwen, and although the refugees threatened the safety of their female relatives, Yan Liwen might have been attacked on the construction site one day later. But Ren Xiaosu should have used a more covert method to solve this matter instead of directly using the popping poker. Of course, this was also due to his own inconvenience and movement. If he could go to work on the construction site, he would have 100 ways to trap the refugees to death in the wilderness. In this way, they would not be so urgent. In the future, we must be more cautious. Ren Xiaosu was not thinking about whether people should be killed, but to kill more carefully. Brother, Yan Liwen asked, what should we do? You hide in the house and don't go out later, Ren Xiaosu said calmly. Wang Fuguan and all the others looked at Ren Xiaosu's back. When the critical moment came, Ren Xiaosu would have to bear the pressure of everyone. Brother, Yan Liwen said anxiously. He knew very well that Ren Xiaosu's injuries could not support such an intense battle. Liwen, Ren Xiaosu said firmly, you curse me now. But before he finished speaking, an off-road vehicle drove in from outside the refugee camp. The car should have come from the north. The car stopped in front of the crowd, and a girl in a baseball cap jumped out of the car and said, where's the person in charge? Come and see me. The lieutenant colonel frowned and walked over. Who are you? At this time, the lieutenant colonel had seen the other party's license plate, black background with red letters. This is the license plate used by the core members of the Yang family, so his tone of voice suddenly became polite. The girl showed her ID, and the lieutenant colonel immediately became respectful. So it's you who are here. I only heard of you before, but never had the chance to meet you. Well, the girl nodded calmly. Have you seen a boy named Ren Xiaosu here? I'm looking for him. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story, and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 304, Northward 88 Barrier. The entire refugee camp didn't understand what had happened. Why did a girl suddenly come over and say she wanted to find someone? And it seemed that even the lieutenant colonel of the Yang family's army was very polite to her. This was a bit subversive of common sense. Could it be a core member of the Yang family? But what name did the girl call just now? Ren Xiaosu? But Yang Xiaojin repeated again, do you have anyone named Ren Xiaosu or Yan Liwen here? I want to take them away. The refugees were envious. They were actually going to take these people away. Judging from their attitude, leaving must be a good thing, not a bad thing. Wait, the refugees were not familiar with Ren Xiaosu, because Ren Xiaosu had been lying down to recover from his injuries and had no sense of existence, but they were very familiar with the name Yan Liwen. Sister Xiaojin, we are here, Yan Liwen raised his hand and shouted. Yang Xiaojin's eyes lit up. She didn't expect that she would actually find Ren Xiaosu and the others here. Before, because she was besieged by the experimental subjects, she had no choice but to follow Luo Zinayu to leave the battlefield. When she wanted to go back to find them, she had no chance. She didn't know where Ren Xiaosu and the others had gone. After walking north for a while, Yang Xiaojin was still unwilling to give up. After hearing that a refugee camp was set up here, she came back again to try to find it again. Ren Xiaosu looked at Yan Liwen and whispered, didn't you make a wish or curse? No, Yan Liwen shook his head. At this critical moment, Yang Xiaojin and Luo Zinayu suddenly drove an off-road vehicle and rushed out of the darkness. There were originally many people blocking the road between Ren Xiaosu and Yang Xiaojin, but when Yang Xiaojin walked towards Ren Xiaosu, those refugees were unconsciously separated like waves. It was as if this was a stage, and the two people at the end of the stage passage were the protagonists tonight. Yang Xiaojin walked up to Ren Xiaosu and looked at him carefully. She was wearing her baseball cap as usual, and she was still wearing a fitted sportswear. Are you injured? Yes, Ren Xiaosu nodded and said, I accidentally got hit by Li's RPG. The lieutenant colonel next to him opened his mouth wide. He thought to himself, you are bragging, can you still stand up after getting hit by an RPG? Who do you think you are? But he suddenly thought of Yang Xiaojin's identity, and he seemed to understand it again. At this time, Yang Xiaojin said to the lieutenant colonel, I want to take these people away, you go through the formalities. The lieutenant colonel said in embarrassment, we are investigating a spy case, they are the main suspects. Although he was very polite to Yang Xiaojun, official business is official business after all. Yang Xiaojun asked calmly, "You mean, my friend is a spy? Then what am I? This is my Yang family's people, but you are not high enough to know it. Do you still want to arrest them now?" "Don't dare." The lieutenant colonel's tone suddenly weakened. He turned his head and said to the soldier beside him, "Let them go." Ren Xiaosu sighed in his heart. Well, he has the identity of Yang family, and it's complete. It is estimated that his identity will be like a confidential file. When the 50-year declassification period of the files of the Yang, Li and Qing families is over, everyone will be even more shocked. Of course, Li family may not be there by then. At this moment, the refugees next to him were shocked. What kind of person is this from the Yang family? Their envy of Ren Xiaosu has reached its peak. "We were all refugees, how come you suddenly became the core of the Yang family, and there are beautiful girls coming to pick you up in the middle of the night?" When they were on the way to escape, the refugees were envious of Ren Xiaosu and his friends because they had food. Later, when they arrived at the refugee camp, they thought that they were all prisoners, so it was balanced. But now everyone found that it was not the case at all. Yang Xiaojun looked at the number of Ren Xiaosu and his friends, and then said to the lieutenant colonel, "I will requisition one of your trucks." The lieutenant colonel hurriedly said to the soldiers next to him, "Drive a car quickly." Then the lieutenant colonel asked, "Where are you going?" Yang Xiaojun said, "Fortress 88. The lieutenant colonel shouted, "Fill up the gas." It seems that the distance from here to Fortress 88 is not short, and you have to fill up the gas to get there. Yang Xiaojun did not take the off-road vehicle, but followed Ren Xiaosu and his friends to get on the truck bed of the military truck. Luo Zhenyu pouted alone in the driver's seat of the off-road vehicle, but finally said nothing. When they got into the truck bed, Yang Xiaojun asked again, "Is the injury serious?" Yan Luoyun said beside him, "There are 17 fractures in the whole body, including 4 comminuted fractures." Yang Xiaojun was stunned for a moment. At first, she saw that Ren Xiaosu could move freely, and thought that Ren Xiaosu's injury was not too serious. As a result, when she looked at Ren Xiaosu now, she found that his forehead was covered with fine beads of sweat. Although Ren Xiaosu used nanorbits to fix all the bones and healed them a little, it still hurts when he moves. This is unavoidable. Ren Xiaosu looked at Yang Xiaojun and said, "I'm fine. I will be healed in about 20 days. Of course, what Ren Xiaosu didn't say was that even after 100 days of healing, the broken bones are still more fragile than other parts, so it will take another month or 2 to recover completely. At this time, Yang Xiaojun said, "There will be no danger in going north, take good care of your injuries." The car fell into silence, as if everyone didn't know what to say. Ren Xiaosu suddenly said, "What is the relationship between you thugs and the Yang family?" This matter puzzled Ren Xiaosu for a long time. Before, Yang Xiaojun said that Lu Yuan was not a member of the thugs, but a member of the Yang family, but the thugs and Lu Yuan worked together, and Yang Xiaojun himself was also from the Yang family. Therefore, it seems that there is nothing wrong with saying that the thugs and the Yang family are of the same origin. But the problem is that the thugs did not seem to have any intention of intervening in this war, and he had never heard of the thugs appearing on the battlefield from Tangzhou. Yang Xiaojun explained, "The founder of the thugs is my aunt, but in recent years, the Yang family's external aggression intentions have become stronger and stronger, and the ideological differences between the thugs and the Yang family have become greater and greater. There are people in the Yang family who support the thugs, but they are very few, so the thugs no longer interfere in the internal affairs of the Yang family, nor participate in the war." Ren Xiaosu understood when he heard this. It is very likely that the thugs were established because Yang Xiaojun's aunt became a transcendent, and then the Yang family also provided some support to the thugs. But now that the pro-war faction of the Yang family has expanded, the thugs and the Yang family have come to a crossroads. Ren Xiaosu asked in confusion, "Does the thugs really believe in maintaining peace?" Yang Xiaojun shook her head, "We don't maintain peace, we just prevent things that can destroy the world from reappearing in the world. Over the years, we have destroyed 17 nuclear test bases, but Qingzhen's test base has never been found." Chapter 305, The bow is hidden after the bird is gone. At this time, Ren Xiaosu suddenly realized that he had misunderstood. Before the war, he was still wondering why the thugs did not come forward to stop the war or destroy it. As a result, it was only now discovered that the main target of the thugs was only the nuclear test base, and did not include other things. Probably like what Yang Xiaojun said, the world once fell into disaster because of this, so humans should not try to master it again. However, Ren Xiaosu is curious and said, but I think what Qingzhen said is also reasonable. It is the fault of humans, not the fault of nuclear weapons. Yang Xiaojun said, I thought so at first, but the 17 nuclear test bases that were destroyed were all doing military research, and gradually no one questioned this concept. But this time Qing's war, if Qingzhen really had such weapons in his hands, the Li family would probably have been gone long ago, Ren Xiaosu said. I don't know, Yang Xiaojun shook his head. In fact, Ren Xiaosu did not support anyone in this matter, because this kind of big thing seemed to have nothing to do with him. After all, he was just a refugee who wanted to survive. Qingzhen also has a point, and the thugs also have factual basis. Until the last moment, who can decide who is right and who is wrong? Ren Xiaosu asked again, 17 nuclear test bases? Where are they? Are they from the Qing family? No, Yang Xiaojun shook her head. In fact, the main range of activities of the thugs has shifted to the Central Plains in recent years. The 17 nuclear test bases were also destroyed there. There are very few thugs left in the southwest. There is a wider world over there. Ren Xiaosu is stunned for a moment. This was the second time he heard someone mention the word Central Plains. After the disaster, humans clung to the barriers, and information and transportation were also blocked. So from childhood to adulthood, Ren Xiaosu thought that the world was actually that big. The northeast was the Qing family, the north was the Yang family, the northwest was the 178 barriers, and the south was the Li family. This was once the world map in Ren Xiaosu's mind, but later he found that it was not the case. Zhang Jinglin mentioned it but did not discuss it in depth. He only said that the road from the southwest to the Central Plains was not easy to travel. The road was damaged after the crustal movement. The mountains and altitude became the natural barrier of the southwest. Ren Xiaosu asked curiously, what is the Central Plains like? I haven't been there either, Yang Xiaojun shook her head. I once heard from my aunt that it is more prosperous and more glorious there. There are even continuous roads connecting the barriers, and residents can travel freely between the barriers without worries. Some people drive to travel to faraway places. The gates of the barriers are open during the day and then closed at night. She once said that barrier number 1 is like a miracle of human civilization. At night, it is like a star that will never go out. Do you want to go to the Central Plains? Ren Xiaosu asked. Yang Xiaojun glanced at him and said, no. Ren Xiaosu is stunned. According to what Yang Xiaojun had said before, the center of the thugs' activities had moved to the Central Plains. Logically, Yang Xiaojun would have gone there too. Why didn't she go? By the way, Yang Xiaojun said, Luolan should be leaving from the 88th barrier soon. If everything goes well on our way, you should still have time to meet him. Luolan is leaving the 88th barrier. Ren Xiaosu is stunned for a moment. He heard Tang Zhou say that Luolan was sent to the 88th barrier by Qingzhen. It was said that Luolan was going to be the representative of Qing for the cooperation between the two consortiums. But now Luolan is leaving, which means that the cooperation between the two is about to end. When the two consortiums weaken the Li family to a certain extent, the alliance for the next cooperation will also lose the basis for cooperation based on common interests. Horizontal ellipsis. At this time, Luolan was already instructing his subordinates to pack up in the 88th barrier. Be gentle, be careful when you move the things to the car. These are all souvenirs that I spent a lot of money on. You can't afford to pay for them if they are broken. The subordinate laughed happily. Boss, are we going back now? Did Commander Qingzhen win the battle? You are talking nonsense, Luolan said with a smile. How can Qingzhen not win a battle? Those old guys of the Li family are definitely finished. In this war, Luolan basically did nothing except negotiate with the Yang family. He just stayed at the Yang family to eat and drink. Now that he is going back, he may be able to catch up with the final battle to encircle and suppress the Li family. Thinking of this, Luolan was excited. For some reason, he liked fighting very much. Although the days during the war were very hard, he didn't eat well or sleep well, but he liked this. However, at this moment, the sound of vehicles roared suddenly on the street of the barrier. The soldiers around Luolan subconsciously wanted to pick up their weapons, but Luolan waved his hands and smiled. Don't worry, who dares to touch us in the 88th barrier? I guess it's the Yang family who came to see us off. There were 3 troop transport trucks coming. When the convoy came in front of Luolan and his group, a large group of soldiers jumped out of the car. Luolan muttered, "This doesn't look like a farewell." As he spoke, an officer came to Luolan and said calmly, "You guys can't leave for the time being." "Why?" Luolan was stunned for a moment. "Are your Yang family crazy?" "We're not crazy," the officer sneered. "It's the Qing family who are crazy, or to be precise, Qing Zhen is crazy." "What happened?" Luolan frowned. "Originally, according to the agreement between the 2 sides, we would attack Guangying Mountain together last night. However, when my Yang arrived at the battlefield, the Qing army suddenly withdrew, leaving us alone to face the artillery fire of the Li family, which caused us heavy casualties." The officer sneered, "Even the alliance can go back on its word, so you don't have to leave. Come on, put them under house arrest and guard them 24 hours a day." Luolan was stunned for a long time. "Is the news accurate?" The officer said, "It seems that your brother doesn't care about your life." As he said that, a group of soldiers raised their guns and forced Luolan and others back into the house. Luolan raised his hands. "Don't push, don't push, we will go in by ourselves and talk it out." His fat body retreated into the house and bumped into the door when he entered. A soldier whispered beside Luolan, "Boss, has Commander Qing Zhen given up on us?" "Fuck your mother's dog fart," Luolan said unhappily. "Qing Zhen will not do such a thing." "Then this is..." The soldier hesitated. Luolan sighed and said, "I'm afraid that Qing Zhen is no longer the one who has the final say in the army." Luolan knew Qing Zhen best, and he knew very well that Qing Zhen would not cheat him. So there was only one answer left. It was not Qing Zhen who made the decision to retreat. The Qing family did not move Qing Zhen before because they were unwilling to change the generals in the middle of the battle, which delayed the opportunity to fight. Now that the Li family has been defeated, Qing Zhen is naturally useless, and the boy is put away after the bird is dead. Chapter 306 21 kilometers Mountain Road. Qing Zhen and Luolan originally controlled only 2 brigades of troops, and Luolan's troops were now unknown where they had hidden, lest the Qing clan find them and recruit them. Therefore, among the many troops on the entire front line, Qing Zhen's true direct lineage was not as many as imagined. Some people in the army supported Qing Zhen, some supported Qing Yun, and most were neutral, only responsible for following orders and fighting. This was also the reason why Qing Zhen wanted to exclude Qing Yun's direct lineage. If he did not drive away these people with different intentions, his orders might be disobeyed. But even if Qing Zhen completed the purge, he could not disobey the orders of the Qing clan's presidium, which was the real core of the Qing clan. If Qing Zhen was given more time, he might be able to convert the entire front-line troops into his own people, but the Qing clan's presidium would definitely not give him this time. It must be said that the Qing clan's presidium grasped the time just right. At this time, the change of commanders on the front line would not have any impact, and Qing Zhen also played his last role. This time, it was still Secretary Zhou who came to escort Qing Zhen. Secretary Zhou stood at the entrance of the camp, and Qing Zhen looked back at the snow-capped mountains behind him. Some soldiers wanted to start a mutiny to save Qing Zhen, but Qing Zhen stopped them with a smile. "Don't be impulsive, you still have family members in the fortress." This is also the reason why the Presidium still has control over the army. If the entire military camp moves at this time, their families will probably die tragically that night. Therefore, from the time Qing Zhen killed Qing Yun to now, the Presidium has always been fearless. In their opinion, Qing Zhen does not have the personal charm to make these soldiers abandon their families. Even if he has, Qing Zhen himself will not do that. It seems that the Presidium has already controlled Qing Zhen to death. "Sir," an officer said, "we will go back with you." Qing Zhen was happy. "What nonsense are you talking about? Follow Chief Qing Yi to fight well. As I said, don't embarrass me." At this time, the front-line troops have all been taken over by a general named Qing Yi. Qing Yi is also a core member of the Qing family, but he was in the training period before, and the Qing family did not really let him go to the battlefield. "What about Commander Luolan?" "He's still at Yang's," the officer said, "last night." Qing Zhen waved his hand. "I'm prepared, don't worry." After that, Qing Zhen followed Secretary Zhou into the car. Secretary Zhou ordered someone to handcuff Qing Zhen. Qing Zhen smiled and said, "Are you so scared of me? I'm not a superhuman, I won't do anything to you." Secretary Zhou sneered and said nothing. This time he was responsible for escorting Qing Zhen and brought the army here. If it weren't for the Presidium's order to ask him to come, to be honest, Secretary Zhou would not be willing to come and face Qing Zhen. The last time Qing Zhen killed someone without warning at the command center, it seemed to have left him with a lot of shadows. Secretary Zhou sat in the car and said calmly, "Qing Zhen, should I praise you for being smart, or say you're stupid?" Qing Zhen smiled and said, "What should I say?" The driver who is responsible for driving the car didn't dare to say a word, his eyes fixed on the front of the vehicle. Secretary Zhou said, "You are really smart. Qing Yun was not good at fighting, but you joined forces with Yang to defeat Li as soon as you arrived at the front. Even I admire you. You are really a talent." Qing Zhen smiled and said, "Thank you for the compliment. You are really stupid. If you leave Li alone, the Presidium will not move you so quickly. So you only understand military affairs, not politics." Qing Zhen smiled and said, "So according to Secretary Zhou, I should keep Li and then lead the army on the front line." Secretary Zhou glanced at the driver. "I didn't say that. Look how cowardly you are. You dare to say it but not admit it." Qing Zhen said, "If I don't fight Li, Li will still fight me. At that time, I will hesitate and use the lives of soldiers to cooperate in acting. I can't do that. On the battlefield, acting also requires life. And what Qing Zhen has to do is to fight the most beautiful battle with the least casualties, and then let the surviving soldiers go home." Secretary Zhou asked in confusion, "Didn't you consider yourself?" "What to consider?" Qing Zhen smiled, "Won't you just go back and continue to be under house arrest? Do you think you can still be under house arrest after killing Qing Yun? This time, it's not as simple as house arrest." Secretary Zhou sneered. "So that's how it is," Qing Zhen sighed. The vehicle escorting Qing Zhen sped all the way to the northeast. There were a large number of soldiers escorting the SUV in front and behind. It can be seen that the Qing family Presidium attaches great importance to Qing Zhen. They are worried that there will be any accidents in the process of escorting Qing Zhen. When the convoy drove into the 111 barrier 2 days later, Qing Zhen rolled down the window with his handcuffed hands. "It's a familiar smell, home." Secretary Zhou's eyes were a little tired. He was a civilian staff member who sat in the car for 2 consecutive days and hardly slept. He was a little overwhelmed. But looking at Qing Zhen, he seemed to be in high spirits, and he didn't even look like a prisoner who was going to be tried. Secretary Zhou yawned and said, "You still have the mind to appreciate this." "Wait, why is the theater closed?" Qing Zhen suddenly asked. When the vehicle passed by several theaters, Qing Zhen was surprised to find that all the theaters were closed, without exception. Secretary Zhou looked out the window and said, "These are the theaters you like to go to. They don't know which girl in which theater you like, so they arrested all the girls." In the past, when Qing Zhen went to the theater, he never had a fixed place to go, and never expressed his love for a girl, because he was worried that he would implicate the other party. But Qing Zhen didn't expect King Shi to do so. Qing Zhen looked out the window and fell silent, and no one knew what he was thinking. Secretary Zhou asked, "Why don't you talk?" Qing Zhen suddenly said, "The flowers I raised at home should have died, and I don't know if anyone is taking care of the vegetables in the backyard." Secretary Zhou laughed angrily, "You still have the mind to talk about this. What else can I talk about?" Qing Zhen said calmly, "If this is a peaceful and prosperous era, I should become a flower farmer. Military and politics are not as interesting as growing flowers. Unfortunately, this is not a peaceful and prosperous era," Secretary Zhou said calmly. At this moment, the vehicle stopped. The Qing headquarters is halfway up the mountain, and the car is parked at the intersection of the winding mountain road. Secretary Zhou got out of the car and said, "The Presidium has ordered you to walk up the mountain." Qing Zhen glanced at him and said, "This mountain road is 21 kilometers long." "That's right." Secretary Zhou adjusted his glasses and said, "The Presidium asked you to think clearly on this mountain road. Who gave you everything you have now? Take off your shoes and walk barefoot." There were soldiers on both sides of the mountain road on martial law, and they couldn't bear to look at Qing Zhen after hearing this. I'm afraid many people didn't expect that this Jinghu of the Qing family would end up like this. I'll take a break, and there will be another chapter tonight to finish writing this plot. I'm begging for the guaranteed monthly ticket at the beginning of next month. Chapter 307, Qing clan changes ownership. 111 Fortress is called Ginkgo Mountain. In autumn, the mountain is covered with the golden yellow. However, in winter, The leaves of the ginkgo trees fall into the valley, leaving only withered branches. The prosperity has ended, and everything has been crushed into mud. Qingzhen stood there, looking at the withered scene in the valley, and suddenly laughed. What a pity. These are probably the 3 words Qingzhen likes to say the most. Secretary Zhou frowned and said, "Come on, take off Qingzhen's shoes and take him to Ginkgo Mountain." The soldiers who were responsible for martial law on the Ginkgo Mountain road did not move, and Secretary Zhou became angry. "How dare you disobey orders?" However, the 2 soldiers still did not move, as if they could not bear to do such a thing. Qingzhen looked at the younger soldier with a smile and said, "I remember you. Your name is Zhang Yuge. You used to be a soldier under my command. You made contributions when we killed the Spark Company." The soldier named Zhang Yuge became excited. He stood up and shouted, "Zhang Yuge from the 5th Combat Brigade. I didn't expect you still remembered me." Qingzhen smiled and asked, "Is your mother feeling better?" Zhang Yuge's eyes suddenly became red. "Thank you, sir. I didn't expect you still care about such a small matter." Qingzhen sighed to Secretary Zhou, "These are all elite soldiers. They should have been fighting outside, but because of me, they were tied here and used as watchdogs. It's a pity. Don't make things difficult for them. I'll do it myself." Secretary Zhou said coldly behind Qingzhen, "Do you know that all the shadows in the history of the Qing family are like you? They all bowed their heads." Qingzhen smiled, "But I am Qingzhen." It was as if the word Qingzhen was supposed to have some kind of magic, pride in his bones, and he would not bow his knees no matter what. As he said that, Qingzhen took off his shoes and socks by himself, and walked step by step towards the mountain where all the ginkgo leaves had withered. The cold winter wind whistled on the mountain road, and the ground was as cold as a knife. However, others could not see the pain and frustration on Qingzhen's face. After walking for a while, Qingzhen suddenly pointed to a valley and said, "When I was a child, Luolan and I played in the mud there. At that time, the stream water was very cold, so we put the stolen persimmons in it and chilled them. After a while, they were especially delicious. At that time, Qing Yun was still following us, but he seemed to hate me since he was a child." Secretary Zhou was silent. No one expected that Qingzhen would have such leisure and ease when he was about to die. "But there are secret guards there now, and you can't go through," Qingzhen said with a smile. Suddenly, blood flowers floated in the sky, and Qingzhen's white feet stepped on the thin snow, leaving a row of footprints on the mountain road. At first, the snow was white and the footprints were black. Once he stepped down, the ground below was revealed. Secretary Zhou shouted in the snow behind him, "Have you thought it through?" Gradually, the snow became thicker, and Qingzhen turned a deaf ear to him. As he walked, red footprints were left on the snow on the mountain road. As he walked up step by step, it seemed as if he would never see the end, but Qingzhen's body remained straight. When Qingzhen passed by, the soldiers on the sentry post on the road turned sideways to look outside the mountain. As he walked, Qingzhen's feet became numb, and he didn't remember how far he had walked. Every step he took was like thinking. Secretary Zhou suddenly asked from the side, "Why did you withdraw your troops and bury the Yang family last night?" "Oh, you are talking about this," Qingzhen said with a smile. "At that time, Qingyi had not yet taken over the military power, and you clearly knew that Luolan was still in Yang's." Secretary Zhou frowned and said, "Now Yangs must have arrested Luolan. Now, after many people learned that you were recalled to the 111 barrier, they would probably think that it was Qingyi's order." Qingzhen smiled and said, "Because I knew you would come to arrest me." "What do you mean?" "Before our father left, he insisted on calling Luolan to his side, saying that he wanted him to protect me, but you know him." Qingzhen laughed. "He can eat and sleep, and he's so reckless. Why do I need his protection? It's more like I protect him. So you let Yangs arrest him?" Secretary Zhou frowned. He didn't even know what the logic was. It had to be said that Qingzhen always planned more things than others. If we don't let anyone catch him, he would have rushed to Ginkgo Mountain to fight the old men. Qingzhen sighed. "Yang will not kill him. A living fat man is more valuable than a dead fat man. Before they get something valuable out of him, Yang will not kill him. It's better than him rushing back." "But he will be killed in the future," Secretary Zhou said calmly. "I have prepared a way out for him," Qingzhen said. So Qingzhen tore up the covenant with Yang not for anything else, but just to keep Luolan in barrier number 88 and not let him come back to die. Because, even Qingzhen was not sure he could survive today. Qing Zhen stood barefoot on the cliff of the winding mountain road. He looked at the falling snow outside. That idiot Luolan, if I died today, he would definitely cry very sadly. Our dead father always said that a family should be harmonious, because there is a family before there are people. Secretary Zhou asked, then why did you go against the wishes of the head of the Qing family? Qing Zhen looked at the distant mountains, as if he had figured something out. He said, now that I think about it, there are only Luolan and I in our family, not others. At this time, Qing Zhen looked back and looked forward, and suddenly laughed. I didn't notice that we are almost there. Let's go. Qing Zhen walked in front, and Secretary Zhou asked loudly again, the deadline is approaching, have you thought it through? Heavy snow fell, and the mountain wind was howling. Qing Zhen whispered in the snow, I've thought about it. In front of him was Qing's villa on the hillside of Ginkgo Mountain. The lights were still on. Qing Zhen stood outside the Vermilion Gate and smiled, thinking about it, it seems that I haven't been here many times. Secretary Zhou escorted him into the hall. Qing Zhen's feet left blood marks on the clean and luxurious marble floor. The servants in the hall were silent and no one dared to wipe off the blood marks. Qing Zhen walked inside. The door of the conference room was already open. The members of the Presidium of Qing were sitting inside. Qing Zhen walked through the long corridor and the long hallway, walking alone, and everyone behind him followed from a distance. Suddenly, someone felt that Qing Zhen's back had been straight until this moment, and had never bent. When Qing Zhen walked into the conference room, he walked straight to the end of the conference table and sat down. There was no one next to Qing Zhen. All the members of the Presidium sat on the other side of him, as if he was against the entire Qing family. The old man at the head said calmly, do you know you were wrong? Qing Zhen also said calmly, what's wrong? The old man narrowed his eyes slightly. He didn't expect that after walking 21 kilometers on the mountain road, he still couldn't make Qing Zhen bow his head. Killing people to seize power, raising an army privately, disobeying the emperor, the old man said, these several charges can be sentenced to death. Qing Zhen asked, must I die? If you don't die, I will be uneasy. This sentence is the voice of everyone in the Qing family Presidium. Now the shadow who ignores the rules makes them afraid. They have never been so afraid of a shadow, so this shadow must die. At this time, Qing Zhen's troops have been dispersed. Some have been incorporated into the grassroots of various combat sequences and started to be domesticated. Some stubborn ones are tied to the barriers and used like dogs. Qing Zhen's influence in the army seems to have been weakened to the point of being as light as a hair. Luo Lan was placed under house arrest at the 88th barrier. It seems that Qing Zhen has lost his last help. So when the final plan was revealed, the Qing family Presidium was confident of victory and was determined to kill Qing Zhen. Qing Zhen stood up and walked barefoot to the edge of the meeting room. Someone shouted angrily, Qing Zhen, you still dare to be so arrogant at this time? Qing Zhen suddenly turned to Secretary Zhou and asked loudly, Zhou Qi, I have thought about it. Have you thought about it? On the 21-kilometer mountain road, Secretary Zhou asked loudly twice, but now it was Qing Zhen who asked back. Outside the floor-to-ceiling window, the mountains and rivers are magnificent, and the sky and the earth are vast. He doesn't want to be a shadow anymore. He wants to be the master of the Qing family. Break the wind and shatter the world, and the mountains and rivers will be cut off. If you don't change the world, you will never return. Qing Zhen asked loudly again, have you thought about it? Secretary Zhou smiled, I am willing to serve you. Secretary Zhou, who stood behind the old man at some point, pinched a stream from the void. The transparent stream seemed to come out of nothing and actually dispersed and flowed to the necks of the Presidium members. Someone's exclamation startled the security personnel outside the conference room, but Secretary Zhou was prepared. The clear stream split into another stream, penetrated the heavy wooden door of the conference room and flew out. There were screams outside, but they stopped after a while. There were also dense gunshots on the mountainside, which should be a fierce battle. The soldier named Zhang Yuji at the foot of the mountain suddenly shouted, everyone, today is the day to make achievements. As he spoke, a large group of soldiers suddenly came out of the mountains. Although he rushed up together, the blood shed during the battle actually flowed down the mountain road and melted the thin snow. In the 111 fortress, the manhole cover of the sewer was suddenly opened, and a black army rushed to all the military strongholds in the fortress. When they encountered the regular army of the fortress, this black army was extremely brave and fearless. A soldier in black slowly sat down on the ground after being shot. A comrade wanted to help him up. He held his teammate and smiled. "We have finally waited until today. Go and leave me alone. Tell the commander that we have been waiting for too long." Secretary Zhou smiled at Qing Zhen and said, "You don't let Luo Lan come back. Are you worried about me? We were friends who played in the mud together when we were young. It makes me sad." On the mountainside, Qing Zhen said that he and Luo Lan had played in the mud and iced persimmons by the stream, but what he didn't say was that Zhou Qi was among those children. Many people thought that Secretary Zhou regarded Qing Zhen as a thorn in his side, which was why the Qing family presidium liked to use Secretary Zhou to target Qing Zhen. But Qing Zhen and Zhou Qi have never been at odds. In the early years, they had an idea to change the world. When Qing Zhen was questioned by Zhou Qi, he also laughed. "I am indeed a little worried about you. After all, a fortune teller said that you have a rebellious mind when you were a child." Zhou Qi was choked. "Fuck you." Secretary Zhou, who originally looked gentle and polite, was not gentle at all. The old man in the conference room said coldly, "Aren't you afraid that Qing Yi will come back with an army to kill you?" Qing Zhen said, "Coincidentally, Qing Yi is also my man. What should we do now?" Zhou Qi asked. "He has already rebelled, and we can't leave any trouble for the future." Qing Zhen said, "Kill them. I originally wanted to let them walk 21 kilometers on the snow, but now I think there is no need to be angry with them. Winners should have the bearing of winners." As soon as the voice fell, the water ropes on the necks of the presidium members suddenly tightened, like the shackles of death. Zhou Qi looked at Qing Zhen, who was in a daze by the window, and asked, "What are you thinking about?" Qing Zhen came back to his senses. "Oh, I was thinking, I may not have time to plant flowers in the future." Zhou Qi listened to the gunshots on the mountainside. He adjusted his glasses and said, "It's just nature." The members of the presidium had not died immediately. They wanted to tear off the ropes around their necks, but found that the means of the extraordinary people were not something they could contend with. The string was like a real steel cable. The loser is the enemy, and the winner is the king. The Qing family has changed its owner. A big chapter is presented. The most fearful thing about writing a book is that there is no passion, forgetting the original intention, and no desire to talk. I am afraid too. But when I wrote this book, I suddenly found a passion when I first wrote a novel. I put in too much effort. I liked this story too much. Chapter 308. Arriving at Barrier 88. Internal war broke out suddenly inside the more than 10 barriers controlled by the Qing family, without any warning or defense. At this time, the combat troops and soldiers of the Qing family thought that the war was an external war, but they did not expect that after one night, the flag on the city wall was changed and the presidium was swallowed up. The direct descendants of Qing Zhen, who were originally scattered in various combat sequences, had either successfully instigated the chief officers of the troops to rebel, or directly implemented the decapitation plan, leaving the army in a state of chaos and leaderlessness. Many people sacrificed that night. They were willing to die for the glory of Qing Zhen, and Qing Zhen sent a large number of people to carry out the reception of barriers and combat sequences. New decrees were issued from the 111 barriers, and it took Qing Zhen half a month to complete the purge and expulsion of the remnants. A large number of direct descendants of the Qing family presidium were forced to run into the wilderness, but what awaited them was the cold winter and hunger. In the manor on the hillside of Ginkgo Mountain, Zhou Qi asked, "Where's the money you promised me? Give it to me, give it to me, give it to me." Qing Zhen looked at him with amusement, then wrote a check. "Go to Qing's bank to withdraw it. It's enough for you to use for a lifetime." Zhou Qi took the check happily. "Look, you just refused to believe me. Now it's all right. Luo Lan is imprisoned in Barrier 88 and is used as a bargaining chip. What will you do?" "I believe you." Qing Zhen said unhappily. "You want money right after it's over. Can I trust someone like you?" Zhou Qi was unhappy. "Although I like money, I can get money from the presidium, so why should I take your money instead of the presidium's money? It's because we have a close relationship." "I believed your lies." Qing Zhen sat calmly in his seat. The reason he was worried was that he was afraid that Zhou Qi would turn against him at the last minute. Outsiders only thought this was Qing Zhen's foreshadowing, but Qing Zhen himself understood, and he was also sweating. In fact, it was unknown who would win between him and the presidium that night, and it was indeed a risky decision to place part of the bet on Zhou Qi, because Zhou Qi had loved money since he was a child. Qing Zhen knew very well that Zhou Qi stood on his side, partly because his money was easy to take and save. Taking the presidium's money might lead to retaliation later. Of course, there were also some complicated relationships. They had known each other since childhood, so there was always some friendship. Joki said, "What about Luolam now? How about you pay me some more money and I'll rescue him?" Qingzhen looked up at him and said, "No, I'll make my own arrangements." At this time, a troop transport truck was speeding towards the 88th barrier, and Yang Xiaojun suddenly said, "We're here." Ren Xiaosu looked forward through the car window and saw a towering barrier sitting in the wilderness. This barrier was huge, at least much larger than 108, 109, and 113. The location of the 88th barrier is very special. In the early years when free merchants could still travel between the barriers, there were the Zhuang family in the north, the 178th barrier, the Qing family in the east, and the Li family in the south. This was an important cargo distribution center, and the Yang family also started from this. Ren Xiaosu had seen the market town of the 88th barrier from a distance in the car. At this time, a group of refugees had just returned home from work. Some of them had cigarettes in their mouths, looking satisfied. Just as Yan Liwen said, the Yang family was no different from other financial groups. The only difference was Yang Xiaojun. When their vehicles passed by, the refugees quickly got out of the way, fearing that they would be troubled by the big shots in the car. Yan Liwen was very excited when he saw the market town. "Brother, why don't we live in the market town?" Ren Xiaosu smiled. "Let's go to the barrier first." Yan Liwen said, "Okay." In front, Luo Zinayu showed her ID to the gatekeepers in the off-road vehicle, and those soldiers immediately respectfully opened the gate and let them pass. The peculiarity of this 88th fortress is that after entering a gate, there is actually a circle of walls inside. Yang clan actually built a barbican in the 88th fortress. This is a building specially used for building fortifications. Yang clan actually values the fortifications of the 88th fortress so much. At this time, Yang Xiaojun said, "Luolan should have left at this time, but the Qing clan suddenly tore up the covenant, so those people of the Yang clan put him under house arrest." It is said that the Qing clan has undergone a big change. After Qingzhen was taken back to the 111th fortress, he launched a mutiny. The master of the Qing clan is now Qingzhen. Therefore, Yang clan could not let Luolan leave, because he was the brother of the head of the Qing clan. The stakes were so high that the staff of Yang clan would wake up with laughter in their sleep. At this time, Ren Xiaosu suddenly discovered from Yang Xiaojun's words that when she talked about the Yang clan, she always had a sense of separation from the Yang clan. For example, when Yang Xiaojun mentioned the Yang clan, she was talking about those people of the Yang clan. Ren Xiaosu suddenly asked, "What's the situation at the front now?" "The Qing army has returned to the front," Yang Xiaojun said. "Originally the war should not have gone so smoothly, but it is said that a major espionage case occurred on the Li front. A very powerful spy leaked the defense map of the front position, and even the movements of the Shenji camp were revealed by this spy." Hearing this, Ren Xiaosu fell silent, and Wang Yuqi and the others also stared at their toes, afraid of laughing out loud. Yang Xiaojun asked, "What's wrong with you?" "Nothing," Ren Xiaosu said. "Go on." "Well," Yang Xiaojun said, "Yang's losses on the front line are still heavy. 3 armored brigades have been defeated and only 2 are left. If Yang had such a spy to support him, the result would definitely be different." Yet, Ren Xiaosu sighed, "This spy is amazing." Yang Xiaojun rolled his eyes and said, "You are really praised for a few words. I know that person is you. No one else has this ability except you. The residence arranged for you is next to Luolan and the others. It is the residence used by Yang to entertain foreign guests. The conditions are still very good. If you have any other needs, you can tell me." Ren Xiaosu thought for a while, "Is there a university in the 88th barrier?" "Yes," Yang Xiaojun nodded. "Why, do you want to go to college?" Ren Xiaosu has always been thinking about one thing, which is to let Wang Yuqi and the others further their studies and then perfect the external armor. The outer armor he is using now is still a bit rustic in terms of both appearance and structure, so it needs further improvement. Originally, Wang Yuqi and others said that they could try it, but some things are easy to imagine, but they are difficult to do, so Wang Yuqi and others still need to study further. Ren Xiaosu expects that they will have to stay in this 88 barrier for at least a few years before considering future plans, so instead of wasting time, it is better to start preparing for a rainy day now. If the shield composed of his nano armor had a better shock absorption mechanism, maybe the result would be different now. Chapter 309 Meeting Luo Lan again. Hearing Ren Xiaosu saying that he wanted to arrange for Wang Yuqi and the others to go to college, Yang Xiaojun thought for a moment and said, "Even I can't directly grant you admission, but I can arrange for you to take the exam in 3 months." "That's fine," Ren Xiaosu said. Wang Yuqi asked, "Class monitor, aren't you going to college?" Ren Xiaosu paused and said, "You go first." Although he was very studious, he knew what kind of person he was. If he wanted to study hard in the remaining 3 months, it would be impossible for him to learn to the level that would allow him to enter college. Unless he did tasks every day after entering the barrier, and then took a lot of basic learning maps to learn all the math, physics and chemistry skills of Yang Xiaojun. Thinking of Yang Xiaojun's messy skills, Ren Xiaosu felt that this project must be huge. Suddenly, Ren Xiaosu saw the gold shop beside the barrier road. He wondered if the Li and Qing currencies here had also depreciated. If so, he could make another move. Although he couldn't spend it, it was still okay to keep it for the various strange charging items in the palace. On the way, Ren Xiaosu suddenly heard a whirring sound coming from the building beside the street. He was stunned for a moment. "What is that sound?" Yang Xiaojun replied, "Oh, they are playing mahjong." "So many people playing mahjong?" Ren Xiaosu was surprised. When they arrived at the residence prepared by Yang Xiaojun for them, Yang Xiaojun left first. She had been away from the barrier for too long and had a lot of things to deal with. Before leaving, Yang Xiaojun said, "You have to stay in this place for now. I will help you move as soon as possible." Ren Xiaosu was quite satisfied when he saw that the place was a yard. "It's okay, it's nice here." As soon as Ren Xiaosu and his friends entered the yard, they saw Luo Lan's big head leaning on the wall and secretly observing them. Ren Xiaosu was amused. "What are you doing?" When Luo Lan found out that it was Ren Xiaosu, he exclaimed, "You were arrested too." Ren Xiaosu said calmly, "You misunderstood, our situations are different." Someone behind the wall whispered, "Boss, who did you see?" "Let us see too." Luo Lan said unhappily, "What the hell are you looking at? Hold on to me." "Boss, you're too heavy." Ren Xiaosu's eyes twitched. Luo Lan was leaning on the wall, and there were people supporting him with their bodies below. But it seemed that Luo Lan and his friends were in a good mood. Ren Xiaosu asked, "Aren't you under house arrest? You don't seem to be that depressed." Luo Lan said nonchalantly, "Yang clan won't do anything to me. A living fat man is more valuable than a dead one. Besides, I'm used to being under house arrest at Barrier 111. "You're pretty generous," Ren Xiaosu pouted. "Have you heard that Qing Zhen has successfully seized power? Congratulations." As a result, Luo Lan almost cried when he heard this. "It's over. Yang clan won't let me go." In just a moment, Luo Lan understood his own value. He is now the brother of the head of Qing clan. The value of a barrier may not be as high as his. Thinking of this, Luo Lan felt a little excited for some reason. Is he already so valuable? "Come on, lift me up a little higher," Luo Lan said to the person behind him. "Let me go to the next yard to chat with brother Xiaosu." Ren Xiaosu pressed Luo Lan's head to stop him from coming over. "You are a prisoner. Don't run to our place randomly. What if you get us into trouble?" Luo Lan was unhappy. "Look, I am treating you like a brother. As the saying goes, don't hit someone who smiles. How can you do this to me?" Ren Xiaosu glanced at him. "I can hit someone who fakes smiles. I have money." Luo Lan shouted. Only then did Ren Xiaosu let go. "It doesn't matter whether it's money or not. I just want to invite you to come and sit with us." As he said that, Ren Xiaosu saw Luo Lan clumsily climb over the wall. If he hadn't caught him below, Luo Lan might have fallen to the ground. Ren Xiaosu asked curiously, "You can freely enter and exit the next yard, why don't you run away?" "The people who originally lived in your yard were plainclothes officers, used to guard me." Luo Lan patted the dust off his butt and said, "I don't know why they withdrew in the morning, so I was leaning on the wall to watch. But their withdrawal does not mean that they will stop monitoring me. This whole street is full of plainclothes officers of the Yang family. I want to leave? I'm almost beaten to pulp." "Huh?" Ren Xiaosu was stunned for a moment. "So that's what happened. Someone came to clean the house for you in the morning." Luo Lan walked around in the yard. When he saw the female students behind Jiang Wu, his eyes were straight. "Beautiful ladies, let me introduce myself. My name is Luo Lan, and I'm the brother of the current head of the Qing family." But no one wanted to pay attention to him at this time. Ren Xiaosu was also thinking about their current situation. Since the whole street was under the surveillance of the Yang family, why did Yang Xiaojin bring them here? Was it out of necessity, or did Yang Xiaojin also want to include them in the scope of surveillance? Did Yang Xiaojin know about this herself? Wait, no wonder Yang Xiaojin said before she left that they had to stay here for a while. In fact, she knew this matter very well, but she was powerless. It seems that the rift between the thugs and the Yang family has affected Yang Xiaojin's position in the Yang family. Yan Luiyun whispered beside him, the attitude of a consortium will not change because of Sister Xiaojin alone, so brother, have you thought about what we are going to face? Ren Xiaosu rubbed his head and smiled, it's okay, when my injury is healed, the Yang family can't stop us. Then we will go to the north to be bandits. I heard that there is a no man's land between the Yang family, the Zhong family, and the 178th barrier. Ren Xiaosu was right about this. Even Su Xianchu encountered bandits who wanted to attack him on his way to the 178th barrier in the north. Those bandits were some gangsters deliberately raised by the Zhong family when they could still trade freely in the early years. Some bandits were even disguised as regular soldiers of the Zhong family, just to rob goods. But over the years, the Zhong family has been raising bandits, and many bandits have gradually escaped from their control and lived freely and comfortably in the lawless area. Ren Xiaosu thought that this kind of place without rules was also good. With his own strength, he should be able to gain a foothold. So he is now recuperating in the barrier for the past few days and observing the situation. After discovering that Barrier 88 is indeed not a good destination, they can just go to the north to occupy the mountain and become the king. However, at this moment, there was a knock on the door outside. Wang Fuge went to open the door and was shocked to find that a group of people were waiting outside with food. A middle-aged man at the door said with a smile, hello, I am here to bring food to you on the orders of the higher-ups. Luo Lan took a breath of cold air. Is the difference in treatment so big? There are only 2 chapters today, and I will make up for it tomorrow. Chapter 310 King Guiyang Yang Clan. The middle-aged man who came to deliver the food greeted Ren Xiaosu, put down the ingredients and prepared to leave. Luo Lan cursed for a long time in the yard. Stop right there, my brother of the head of the Qing family has no status, why don't you send us food? I am Qing Zhen's brother. In the end, the middle-aged man ignored him. Luo Lan stopped yelling when he saw that the man had left. He carefully looked at the ingredients sent by the other party. Oh, they are all for hot pot. The beef is marinated, the tripe is covered with ice, and there is also the bottom of the pot. Ren Xiaosu and others looked at each other. They had eaten hot pot before, but they had not eaten much meat. The hot pot of the refugees was all 9 square grid. The 9 square grid was not for cooking separately, but because everyone had no money, so 9 people shared a pot and ate, 1 grid per person, and no one took advantage of anyone else. But at that time, the grid was not fixed, it was separated by bamboo strips, so there were always people who liked to steal other people's food from the bottom of the pot. Regardless of whether there were plainclothes officers outside the door, they had just arrived at a new place and had been given food, so they had to take a good rest. As Ren Xiaosu said, the most important thing for them now was to wait for Ren Xiaosu to recover from his illness, rather than to make any trouble. Several tables were set up in the yard. The 3-story yard was particularly spacious. Not to mention 30 people, even 100 people could sleep in a bunk bed. When the hot pot was boiling, Luo Lan said as he picked up his chopsticks, did Yang Xiaojin bring you to 88 barriers? Why don't you go to Qing's territory to find my brother? Why go to Qing's? Ren Xiaosu glanced at him, your Qings are in turmoil. If we go there, we might be implicated. That's better than coming to Yang's at this time, especially with the thugs, Luo Lan said. Why? Ren Xiaosu was puzzled. Most of the thugs have left Yang's. Do you know about this? Luo Lan said. I know, Ren Xiaosu replied. Now that the war faction is in power, the thugs have long been marginalized. Moreover, the thugs have been wandering outside the family and becoming an independent force, which also makes the Yang family's presidium very annoyed, so they parted ways. Luo Lan laughed cheerfully, the thugs are powerful. The entire Yang family can't do anything about them. Only the extraordinary people can do this. The thugs want to destroy your nuclear test base, and you still praise them for being powerful. Ren Xiaosu said. There is no contradiction, Luo Lan said with a smile, I am speaking the truth. There is no need to elevate myself by belittling others. Besides, they can't find our base at all. No one can find it. Okay, Ren Xiaosu realized that the thugs were not welcome in Yang's company. By the way, how are you going to leave Yang's company? I'm afraid they won't let you go. Luolan suddenly changed the subject. Ha, come and eat tripe. Let me tell you, there are some rules for eating tripe. I'll teach you. After putting it into the soup. As a result, Ren Xiaosu tightly grasped Luolan's wrist. No need to teach. You have already taught us half a plate of tripe. We can do it ourselves. At this time, to the north of the 88th fortress, that was the rich area of the entire fortress. The entire rich area was covered with green grass like a manor. In a villa covering an area of 3,210 square meters, servants were busy going in and out of the restaurant. 2 steel knives were hung on the wall of the restaurant. The handles were inlaid with gems, which looked very valuable. But these well-made cold weapons have become decorations in the era of hot weapons. Only when the servants wipe them will people touch them. There is also a badge on the handle, which is the blue sheep unique to the Yang family. It is said that the founder of the Yang family consortium was about to starve to death in the wilderness, but when he was about to starve to death, a sheep came to him and knelt down, willing to be his food. If Ren Xiaosu heard this story, he would probably start a quarrel on the spot. The servants brought the dishes to the table, but there were only 3 people at the long table, Yang Xiaojun and a middle-aged couple. The middle-aged man rolled up the sleeves of his white shirt and said, Xiaojun, I heard that you brought some refugees back. Yang Xiaojun was silent for a moment. Yes, third uncle. It's not a good habit to make friends with refugees. Yang Xiaojun's third uncle picked up the chopsticks. The level of a person's friends determines the level of the person. I let you go out because I trust you and let you see the world. Don't let your heart be wild, and don't learn those bad habits from your aunt. Yang Xiaojun said calmly, they are different. The current leader of the Yang Group's presidium is old, and half of all the affairs of the consortium are handed over to Yang Xiaojun's third uncle, Yang Yuan. The woman opposite Yang Xiaojun said, your third uncle is also for your own good. Even if your parents are still alive, they would say this. Refugees have not received a good education and don't know any etiquette. There is nothing in common when sitting together for dinner, so it's better not to get too close to them. If you feel like helping them, then give them appropriate help. When the other party said to help the refugees, the expression was like a kind of charity. In Yang Xiaojun's opinion, she always felt that her uncle Yang Yuan and her aunt Meng Rong's vision was still at the level of ordinary people, but the world has changed. The quality and strength shown by that young man have long surpassed most extraordinary people. But this is not the most important thing. Yang Xiaojun put down her chopsticks. I'm full. There is something important to discuss with you, Yang Yuan said. Now the war on the front line is probably no problem. The next thing we have to face is the Qing family. Qing Zhen is a tyrant. It is not a good thing for us Yang family if he can successfully seize power. Have the thugs found the Qing family's experimental base? No, Yang Xiaojun shook her head. I think they are very likely not to use weapons of this level. That also needs to be prevented, Yang Yuan said. Now Yang family still has some support for the activities of the thugs. In fact, he was willing to let Yang Xiaojun go out before, hoping that the thugs could find the Qing family's experimental base, so as to destroy the last unstable factor of their expansion. But Yang Yuan continued, there will be a long conflict with the Qing family in the future, so we must make more plans. Before the Qing family, we should make the Zhuang family in the north our ally. On the one hand, it will stabilize the rear, and on the other hand, it will form a joint force to directly put pressure on the Qing family. It's not only Qing Zhen who can form alliances, our Yang family can do it too. Yang Xiaojun looked at Yang Yuan. Third uncle, what do you want to say? Someone from the Zhuang family will come in a few days, you should receive them, Yang Yuan said. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelists. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 311, Northern Zhuang Clan. The Zhuang family has always been in a corner of the north. The land in the north is barren and there are many natural disasters. Therefore, the overall strength has never been as good as the Yang family and the Qing family, and they have never dared to cause big trouble to the southern financial groups. However, there are no big moves, but small moves are constant. For example, the matter of raising bandits was done by the Zhuang family. Yang Yuan's evaluation of the Zhuang family is, they have ambitions, but they don't have the strength to support their ambitions. This is also the reason why the Zhuang family has been planning to infiltrate the 178 barrier. If the group of killers in the 178 barrier go south, the Yang family and the Qing family will have a headache. The Zhuang family once wanted to complete the peaceful evolution of the 178 barrier during the days when Zhang Jinglin was away, but they underestimated the beliefs of the group of killers in the 178 barrier. When Zhang Jinglin returned to the 178 barrier, all the plans made by the Zhuang family in the past 10 years were wiped out. At this time, everyone realized that the 178 barrier was still surnamed Zhang. If Yang Yuan knew about the friendship between Ren Xiaosu and Zhang Jinglin, he would probably immediately treat Ren Xiaosu as a distinguished guest. He was the most terrifying force in the northwest border, an iron-blooded warrior created by the harsh environment and the belief in life and death. But let alone Yang Yuan, even Ren Xiaosu didn't know what Zhang Jinglin did specifically, and never thought of relying on Zhang Jinglin for anything. He even gave the letter of introduction to Su Zianshu. At this time, Yang Yuan said, the young man from the Zhuang family is called Zhong Chang. He is in charge of the defense of the Zhuang family. He is very young and promising, and he has been given important positions at a young age. We are old, and the world belongs to you young people. I heard that a young general named Su Zianshu has recently appeared in the 178 barrier, who is highly regarded by Zhang Jinglin. This name sounds familiar to me. Is it the Su Zianshu you have dealt with? Are you familiar with him? Yang Xiaojun was stunned for a moment. She was not very familiar with Su Zianshu, but Ren Xiaosu had a very good relationship with Su Zianshu. At this time, Yang Xiaojun suddenly found it a little funny. How come the famous figures in the 178 barrier, such as Zhang Jinglin and Su Zianshu, all have a deep friendship with Ren Xiaosu? I don't know why, but when I thought of this, Yang Xiaojun suddenly felt that 178 barrier seemed a little more friendly. Yang Xiaojun said, we're not too familiar with each other. We've worked together before, but we don't have much friendship. Yang Yuan said, well, we're friends. In the future, you can deal more with 178 barrier. If you get help from 178 barrier, Qingzhen will have to stay away. Yang Xiaojun didn't say anything. 178 barrier was not willing to deal with mainland consortiums. That group of people was too bloody. If they really wanted to deal with 178, Ren Xiaosu would have to step in. Suddenly, Yang Yuan continued, Zhong Cheng is about the same age as you, and I heard he is also a superhuman, which is perfect. What does perfect mean? It's self-evident. Yang Xiaojun suddenly frowned. Seeing this, her third aunt Mengrong immediately said, don't snipe him on the road. Last time you. Yang Xiaojun's slender eyebrows hidden under the shadow of her cap raised slightly. Okay, I got it. When Yang Xiaojun went to Ren Xiaosu's residence again, it was already the next morning. Yan Luan heard the knock on the door and said that it must be Sister Xiaojun. It turned out to be true. Ren Xiaosu was squatting on the ground brushing his teeth. He spit out a mouthful of foam and smiled, you came so early. Yang Xiaojun said straight to the point, I'm afraid Wang Yuqi and others can't take the exam. She contacted the relevant departments yesterday afternoon, and the matter was heard by her third uncle, who immediately stopped the matter. Ren Xiaosu asked, what's the problem? Because you are not from the barrier, Yang Xiaojun whispered, and the university is conducting confidential research now, so you can't participate. Simply put, they are not from the Yang family, and the Yang family does not intend to make them their own, because Yang Yuan looks down on refugees and does not think that refugees can be of any use from the bottom of his heart. However, Ren Xiaosu did not dwell on this matter. He asked again, what about Luan and Dallin? They are only in junior high school. Yan Luan immediately stood up and said, I am not from the barrier either. Yang Xiaojun smiled and said, they can go to school. Their enrollment has been completed. Yan Luan and Wang Dallin were both about to cry, we are really not from the barrier. We are refugees. Refugees do not deserve to go to school. Okay, you too. Ren Xiaosu looked at them with a smile, just learn knowledge and how to think about problems. It's like asking you to go to prison. Don't be so sad. However, Although Wang Yuqi and the others cannot take the college entrance examination, I have issued a library card for you. The Yang family has built a library in the center of the barrier. You can borrow materials there, Yang Xiaojun said. Wang Yuqi was stunned for a moment. Is it okay? Yes, it's okay, Yang Xiaojun nodded. Nowadays, as civilization continues, many people have discarded knowledge, but some people are trying to fill in some of the lost gaps. Human technology has never been cut off, but this refers to the overall technology. After all, a part of it has been lost in the ocean of time, so that the direction of technology development today has deviated greatly from that before the disaster. This does not depend on what humans need, but on what is left behind and what the resources around them are suitable for development. Someone once found a research room of the civilization before the disaster, and the information inside was taken to a barrier in the Central Plains for auction, and it was sold at an incredible price. And how is civilization passed on? It depends on the words and symbols passed down by paper and pen. Although each consortium has a library, you need a certain identity to enter. When Wang Yuqi and others were studying in the barrier before, they could not enter the library because they were not qualified. I think Yang Xiaojun spent a lot of effort to get them library cards. Ren Xiaosu was happy. Okay, then we can go to the library to study. Thank you. Yang Xiaojun looked at Ren Xiaosu. Anything else you need? Ren Xiaosu thought carefully. Is there a teacher who teaches fighting in this fortress? I want to learn this systematically. In the past, Ren Xiaosu fought bravely in the wilderness, relying on instincts that had been trained for a long time. Whether it was exerting force or hitting weak points, it was all accumulated experience. So his fighting skills have always been at the intermediate level, relying on a burst of ruthlessness. Yang Xiaojun thought for a while. I'll find a way. Yan Liwen suddenly realized that as long as it was Ren Xiaosu's request, Yang Xiaojun would not refuse. He knew that Ren Xiaosu had saved Yang Xiaojun's life, so it seemed to make sense. Suddenly Yang Xiaojun said, "There's something." "What is it?" Ren Xiaosu asked. "Someone from the Zhuang family in the north may come in a while. You can accompany me to receive them," Yang Xiaojun said. Okay. Chapter 312 The Boy in the Library. Ren Xiaosu's life suddenly became peaceful. After breakfast every morning, he started to train Wang Yuqi and the others. He stopped only after Wang Yuqi and the others almost vomited. When they were training, Luo Lan leaned on the wall to instruct them. "You are too reckless in training like this. It is not systematic or scientific at all." At this time, Ren Xiaosu suddenly remembered that Luo Lan was a good leader in the past and must be proficient in this. He looked at Luo Lan and said, "Don't just talk. You said my method is unscientific. What about your science?" Luo Lan's little eyes were shrewd. "Don't use provocation. You want me to train them? No way. We will share our food with you," Ren Xiaosu said firmly. "Are you so good?" Luo Lan didn't quite believe it. The difference in food between the two sides had long been apparent. The food that Yang provided to Luo Lan and the others was steamed buns, cabbage, and pickles, while the food that was provided to Ren Xiaosu and the others was all fish and meat. Ren Xiaosu's living conditions had never been so good. He had chicken legs to eat every day, without fail. The chicken legs and braised pork were placed on the table, and the aroma could be smelled through the wall. Luo Lan next door almost cried with greed. Ren Xiaosu said, "You are responsible for formulating exercise plans for them and supervising their exercise. You can come over to eat together every day." There were only 4 people next door, including Luo Lan. Fatty Luo came here as a negotiator and couldn't bring too many people. So Ren Xiaosu calculated and felt that it would not be a big problem to share some food with these 4 people. Luo Lan rubbed his hands and smiled. "I'm so sorry, I'm not here to eat your food. My brother, the head of the Qing family, still needs that little food. I just think that the training plan you specified is not scientific, so I want to help you." Yeah, you're right. Ren Xiaosu didn't have time to entangle with him. "But I'm a little curious, why are you training them?" Luo Lan was a little curious. "You don't plan to let them join the army, and the physical fitness trained in this way won't be useful. Without a complete system, the strength of individuals can't compete with the extraordinary people at all." Ren Xiaosu ignored him. He couldn't say that it was for Wang Yuqi and others to accept more nano-robots in the future. Indeed, if it was just training without nano-robots, then the training of Wang Yuqi and others would not be very meaningful. but Ren Xiaosu asked them to train in order to better control nano-robots in the future. At least the delay must be shortened to within 0.1 seconds, so that effective combat power can be formed. If there are 8 nano-warriors around to help, it is still considerable, and there are more than 8. There are also Yan Liuan, Li Qingzhang and others. Seeing that the female students have begun to exercise spontaneously. Originally, Ren Xiaosu did not intend to let the female students participate in the battle, but after experiencing so many hardships, the female students have also grown a lot. As for where the nanorobots come from, Ren Xiaosu had to find a way. Isn't Yang's family also making nanorobots? Since the palace can flash the Li family's system, it can definitely flash the Yang family's. Ren Xiaosu, who was completely liberated, went into the library every morning. At first, when Ren Xiaosu arrived at the door of the library, he found that the library was not open. It was not until 10 o'clock in the morning that he saw an uncle with a messy hair coming in late. The uncle was stunned when he saw Ren Xiaosu waiting at the door. "Are you here to read books?" "Yes," Ren Xiaosu nodded. "Isn't the opening time on the sign at 8:30 in the morning?" "Oh," the uncle said, "normally people only come in the afternoon, and there are very few people, so it's okay for me to come a little later. So, if you come early in the future, call me in advance and I will open the door for you." As he said, the uncle wrote a phone number for Ren Xiaosu, which was his home landline. Ren Xiaosu suddenly felt confused. How could this be different from what Wang Yuqi said? With a defense force of this library, anyone can come to read books. Why would they need a library card? The uncle was thinking, this kid from somewhere suddenly vowed to study hard during the winter vacation and become a pillar of the barrier. After a few days, the kid's enthusiasm would fade. His neighbor's kid was like this. During the vacation, he made a lot of study plans for himself. If the plan was successful, the kid would definitely become a great academic and contribute to the progress of mankind. But plans are just plans after all. When the library was first established, Yang even sent soldiers to guard it to prevent people from snatching or stealing books. But later, they found that the residents of the barrier didn't even read books after graduating from high school. Instead, when a little star in the barrier released a new song, there were crowds of people at the press conference. So, slowly, only an uncle was left to watch over it. The next day, in order to prevent the situation from happening again, Ren Xiaosu woke up at 7 a.m. and called the uncle to ask him to open the door. On the third day, it was still the same. On the 10th day, the uncle thought something was wrong. After opening the door in the morning, he pulled Ren Xiaosu and said, "Wait a minute." Ren Xiaosu was stunned for a moment. "What's wrong?" The uncle had dark circles under his eyes from playing mahjong all night, and he sucked his teeth and said, "You come here every day, don't you take a break? Reading is not tiring." Ren Xiaosu said puzzledly, "What's there to rest for?" "I'll tell you the truth," the uncle said. An Yukian, saved up some money to buy this public office because I heard that the job of a librarian is easy and doesn't require getting up early and going to bed late. As a result, when you came, I felt like I was back 10 years ago." Ren Xiaosu looked at an Yukian blankly. "What should I do?" "Look, shouldn't you treat me to breakfast?" An Yukian said with a dark face. Ren Xiaosu looked at an Yukian carefully. "Are you so poor that you don't have money for breakfast?" "Ha ha ha," an Yukian laughed up to the sky. "You kid actually said that I don't have money for breakfast, and you turned out to be right." With a snap, Ren Xiaosu slapped 10 yuan into an Yukian's hand. "Go have breakfast." "I won't go, I'm in a hurry to read." Wang Yuqi and his friends only come to the library in the afternoon every day, studying from 1 p.m. to 6 p.m. The library books here cannot be borrowed, so they can only read here. Ren Xiaosu felt that he was originally worse than Wang Yuqi and his friends, so he had to spend twice as much time to make up for it. When an Yukian finished breakfast and wiped his mouth and returned to the library, he deliberately looked at Ren Xiaosu. In the huge library, only Ren Xiaosu was sitting quietly at the table, and the only sound in the library was the sound of him turning pages. Chapter 313 Library Administrator. In the morning, Ren Xiaosu read in the library, while an Yukian sat at the door of the library, leaning on a chair and sleeping soundly. If the sun shone on an Yukian's face from outside the door, an Yukian would put a book on his face to block the light. Every morning when Ren Xiaosu came, he would consciously give an Yukian 10 yuan, and an Yukian didn't need Ren Xiaosu to call him, and he would wait at the door yawning at 8:30 every morning. Gradually, and Yukian felt uncomfortable like this all the time. He used to play mahjong all night and then have a good sleep at home in the morning. As a result, after that person named Ren Xiaosu came, he could only sleep in the library leaning on a chair. Is it more comfortable to sleep on a chair than on a bed? While there was no one in the library, Yukian specifically observed what book Ren Xiaosu was reading. As a result, he almost laughed to death. It turned out to be a high school math, physics, and chemistry textbook. Ren Xiaosu had insisted on coming to the library for so many days, and finally Yukian looked at him with a new eye. Yukian thought that finally a studious person came to the library, but he was reading a textbook for the first year of high school. Judging from Ren Xiaosu's age, he must be in the third year of high school, right? So he was a poor student who had to start from scratch? Yukian counted on his fingers and found that there were only 3 months left before the college entrance examination. Is it too late to start tutoring for the first year of high school now? Ren Xiaosu didn't even look up at him when Yukian was walking around him. Yukian couldn't help it. It's a bit late for you to take tutoring now. There are only 3 months left before the college entrance examination. Ren Xiaosu looked up at him and said, I'm not taking the college entrance examination. Not taking the college entrance examination? Then why are you studying math, physics and chemistry for the first year of high school? Yukian was shocked. After graduation, you will go to a factory. What's the point of learning this stuff? Knowledge is useful, and the knowledge you learn is yours, Ren Xiaosu said calmly. Yukian shrugged and turned away. Don't forget to eat breakfast every day. If it weren't for you, I wouldn't have to eat breakfast at all. This expense is because of you. Got it, Ren Xiaosu said. However, Yukian suddenly found that in addition to Ren Xiaosu, there was actually a group of students who suddenly came to read books in the afternoon without fail. There were more than 20 male and female students, and they sat in the library for an entire afternoon for several days in a row. You know, although there were people who came to read books in the afternoon in the past, they were not so frequent and stable, and the number was not so regular. This group of students sat next to Ren Xiaosu in an organized and disciplined manner. After waking up in the afternoon, Yukian leaned over to take a look and found that Wang Yuqi and others were reading books related to mechanical manufacturing, which had long exceeded the high school syllabus. When the library was about to close, Wang Yuqi suddenly said to Ren Xiaosu, "Class monitor, it's time to close and go home." Yukian was stunned on the spot. This boy who gave him breakfast money every day was actually the class monitor of this group of students? Ordinary students studied things beyond the syllabus, and the class monitor studied the first year of high school by himself? What a mess. Ren Xiaosu looked up at the sky. You guys go back first, I'll look at it for a while. Hey, Yukian couldn't sit still. I should get off work, you know. Give you 50. Ren Xiaosu said without even looking up. Yukian was unhappy. That won't work either. I should go play mahjong. Maybe I can make a comeback tonight. Ren Xiaosu quietly put the book back on the bookshelf and turned away. The next morning, the first thing Ren Xiaosu said when he saw Yukian was, "Did you make up for your loss? Why are you such a chatterbox, kid?" Yukian had a toothache. Is this something you should ask? Then I lost money. Ren Xiaosu handed Yukian 10 yuan. Go have breakfast. Yukian held a 10 yuan in his hand and felt insulted. In the afternoon, when Wang Yuqi and the others came again, Yukian suddenly sat opposite him. Ren Xiaosu looked up at him in surprise. Is there something? Yukian said, you are mainly studying knowledge about mechanical manufacturing, but the books you are reading are not right. Ren Xiaosu frowned. He glanced at the books in the hands of Wang Yuqi and the others. Then how should I read them? Without a teacher to teach them, they could only grope forward like crossing a river with stones, and the progress was extremely slow. Although Zhang Wu is a teacher, Zhang Wu is a Chinese teacher. At this time, Yukian said, 500 yuan, I will tell you what to watch. As soon as the voice fell, Ren Xiaosu threw 500 yuan over. Wang Yuqi whispered beside him, Squad leader, why do I feel that he is a liar? Ren Xiaosu shook his head, a liar won't even have money for breakfast. Yukian almost cursed, implying that he was not even qualified to be a liar. Yukian sneered and said, if you want to learn mechanics systematically, don't want to learn to run before you learn to walk. You have to learn mathematics and physics first. Ren Xiaosu leaned back in his chair and listened silently. while Wang Yuqi and others had already opened their notebooks and prepared to take notes. I suggest you read Chen Jixu's mathematical analysis as an introduction, and then you must learn linear algebra. What you learned in high school is not enough. Don't read general physics, and Yukian threw a book on the table. Just read this Feynman lecture notes. Real analysis, forget it, don't read this for now. As for mathematical physics methods, just read Wang Dexin. Everyone basically talks about real variable functions, special functions, mathematical equations and the like. There is not much difference. You should also read thermal systems. And Yukian talked non-stop for half an hour. Ren Xiaosu felt that it would take several years to learn all this. As a result, Yukian smacked his lips and said, "This is just the beginning. If you want to really get involved in sophisticated mechanical manufacturing, you are still a long way off." Ren Xiaosu understood. It turned out that this guy was here to show off his eloquence. However, Ren Xiaosu suddenly realized that Yukian was not an ordinary person. Even if he was a liar, he would not memorize so many things just to make 500 yuan. The key point was that no one could teach him to memorize. Ren Xiaosu looked at Yukian and said, "You come to teach them, and I will pay you 500 yuan for one class." Yukian's eyes lit up, but he immediately became reserved. "My time is very precious." 400. "Hey, why is it getting less and less?" 300. "I will teach." 500. "Not a penny less." Ren Xiaosu then laughed, "If you can't teach well, I won't pay." "How can I not teach well?" Yukian's eyes widened. Yukian. "Forget it, you won't understand even if I tell you." But Yukian suddenly felt that the boy in front of him might be more complicated than he thought. Who would pay 500 yuan for a class? The fourth one is to make up for yesterday's. I recommend a friend's book, Lord Dragon King by the author of Xiaosu. Synopsis: the super pet warriors who turned the world upside down were submerged in the long river of history. Mechanical civilization rose up under the siege of the sandworms. The former blue dragon warriors have disappeared, and now the divine mechas are guarding human civilization. Zhang Qingyang and the arrogant cat inadvertently embarked on a long march to find pet civilization. The above recommendation will not be charged extra if it is less than 200 words. Chapter 314. Someone is following me. Yukian took money to do things. As soon as Ren Xiaosu paid, he went to the second-hand market to buy a blackboard and put it in the library. He even had a place. At first, based on his understanding of Ren Xiaosu, he thought that the teaching process might be very difficult. After all, the class monitor was a player who taught himself the first-year high school courses. How good could the other students be? At best, they would be better than Ren Xiaosu, right? Although the books he had read before were all mechanical books that were beyond the syllabus, in Yukian's eyes, they were the opposite of wanting to run before learning to walk. As a result, when it came to the actual teaching, Yukian suddenly found that Wang Yuqi and others had a very good foundation. Although he was teaching the advanced mathematical and physical foundations, this was not something that high school students could understand immediately, but Wang Yuqi and other students were very comfortable when learning. No matter which of these students were picked out, they would be top students in any high school and would have the opportunity to enter university. Yukian frowned and said, "Do you want to go to college? You don't need to learn these things to go to college." Wang Yuqi replied, "We don't go to college." Oh, Yukian didn't know what to say. It was a pity that these young people didn't go to college. But since these students are not going to go to college, why do they have to learn these things? But this has nothing to do with Yukian. He just needs to teach and collect money. But Yukian found that when Wang Yuqi and others came every afternoon, they were sweating profusely, as if they had just finished training. He asked, "What are you doing?" "Physical fitness," Wang Yuqi answered briefly. This made Yukian even more confused. "You still have to practice physical fitness? Are you preparing to join the army?" "No." "Then why are you practicing this?" Yukian was confused. "Why are you asking this?" Wang Yuqi became alert. "If the monitor tells us to practice, we will practice." Yukian is a teacher, so Wang Yuqi still has to respect the person who imparts knowledge to them. But if Yukian keeps asking questions that are not related to knowledge, he will be alert. Yukian thought something was wrong. "He is just your monitor, why do you listen to him so much?" Ren Xiaosu asked them to study. They studied. Ren Xiaosu asked them to practice physical fitness. They practiced physical fitness. Why are they so obedient? You have to know that An Yukian was also a monitor when he was in school. Who in the class took him seriously at that time? Why is there such a big gap between monitors? These days, Ren Xiaosu goes out every morning and goes home at night, alone. It must be said that this kind of life is a rare piece for him. Ren Xiaosu enjoys such days, and it would be better if no one follows him. Although some people said that they withdrew all the plainclothes officers at the door, on the third day, Ren Xiaosu had already discovered that every time he went out, there would be different people following him. In order to track him, these people even used the method of cross-surveillance. When there was a fork in the road, the first person to track him would go in a different direction from him, and then the next person would take over. This was a group of people with very professional methods. If it weren't for the sharp insight that Ren Xiaosu had developed in the wilderness, he might not have been able to find them. Who wanted to track him and why? Ren Xiaosu believed that some of his identities had not been exposed, so in the eyes of many people he should be just an ordinary refugee. And Yang Xiaojin must have been unaware of this. If it was arranged by Yang Xiaojin, she should know that if Ren Xiaosu really wanted to run, these ordinary people would not be able to catch up. The other party followed him day after day, and the cracks in Ren Xiaosu's bones gradually began to close, and even many places did not need nanorbits to fix them. When his injuries were completely healed, he could spare some time to take the fighting course, and he was very much looking forward to this course. An Yukian had seen Ren Xiaosu always sitting quietly in the library before, and he would not move unless he changed books. On the one hand, Ren Xiaosu was really focused when reading, and on the other hand, Ren Xiaosu would feel a dull pain if he moved, so he would not move if he could. At this time, Ren Xiaosu was walking on the road to the library. He did not intend to alarm the person who was following him. Although he did not know what the other party's purpose was, it was the best choice to let the other party treat him as an ordinary person. Zhang Jinglin once told him a little knowledge, that is, when you suspect someone is following you, then you should stop and look at your watch. At this time, the person following you will subconsciously look at his watch. But Ren Xiaosu did not do so, because he did not have a watch now. In the Yang family's manner, Yang Yuan was reading a document carefully. He was a little nearsighted, so he would wear glasses when reading documents. However, when he was outside, he usually did not wear glasses, because his nearsightedness was not particularly serious, about 200 to 300 degrees. At this time, a housekeeper came in and said, "Master, the Secret Service is here." Yang Yuan thought for a while and said, "Let him in." The one who came in was a woman, very young, probably only in her early 20s, not particularly beautiful, but very elegant. If she were to walk down the street without her identity as a spy, she would be a charming young woman. She came to Yang Yuan's desk respectfully and said, "Boss, I've been monitoring that guy for a few days, but I haven't found anything unusual. He goes to the library and goes home every day, and he hasn't been anywhere else. Thank you for your hard work, Yixu. Have you ever lost him?" Yang Yuan asked. "No," said the girl named Zhou Yixu. "He's very clumsy and didn't even notice that we were following him. You know, I'm the best at this, and I believe in my judgment." "Very good," Yang Yuan said, thinking, could this really be just an ordinary refugee? He had heard of the name Ren Xiaosu, who appeared when the Qing family was wanted, but then the Qing family quickly removed him. The news from within the Qing family was that they were sure that Ren Xiaosu was just an ordinary refugee, so they removed him. He also asked Lu Yuan, but Lu Yuan said he had never heard of this person. Yang Yuan asked Lu Yuan if Yang Xiaojin asked him to say that, but Lu Yuan said no. Yang Yuan frowned. Could he really be just an ordinary refugee? He always felt as if someone was hiding something from him, but he had no evidence. And from what he saw now, Ren Xiaosu really seemed to be just a refugee. Yang Yuan looked at Zhou Yixu and said, "Don't relax in the investigation. I think something is wrong. How could an ordinary refugee attract Xiaojin? If necessary, you can go and test him." Chapter 315, Spare My Life, My King. Ren Xiaosu came to the library every day. Recently, when he came to the library again, he found that the door of the library was already open, and An Yukian was sleeping soundly on the chair at the door. It was obvious that he had played mahjong all night last night. It is said that 500 yuan a day is enough for An Yukian to live. The monthly income of an ordinary family of 3 in the entire fortress is only 4,000 to 5,000 yuan. 15,000 yuan a month should be very comfortable. But An Yuqian insisted on using this money to play mahjong. Even if Ren Xiaosu wanted to pay the tuition, he had to let Wang Fuga secretly exchange a small amount of gold. After all, they have no source of income now. Fortunately, he still has a lot of gold. Thinking of this, Ren Xiaosu hopes that he can find another ruin in the future. It must be said that the human civilization before the disaster was full of treasures. If it is true as Yang Xiaojin said, a laboratory item can be exchanged for an inexhaustible amount of money for a lifetime, it would be a blessing from heaven. No wonder Qingzhen had to go to such great lengths to dig up the laboratory in Jingshan. Cigarettes can go bad, and alcohol can evaporate, but the paper documents preserved in a closed space are priceless. Of course, some people have found alcohol that has not evaporated. It was carefully processed and packaged for preservation. Selling it can make people rich overnight. Ren Xiaosu knocked on the table in front of An Yuqian. Have you had breakfast? Huh? An Yuqian looked at Ren Xiaosu sleepily. No, I'm waiting for you to pay for breakfast. I passed by the bun shop this morning, and the buns smelled delicious. Ren Xiaosu slapped 10 yuan on the table in a bad mood. Go eat, I'll help you look after the library. Haha, An Yuqian put the 10 yuan in his pocket. Good man. Wait, Ren Xiaosu asked in confusion. Why do you have to spend money on things like playing mahjong? In his opinion, An Yuqian was not simple. How could a person who could sort out the logic of mathematics and physics in a short period of time be just an ordinary librarian? The basic things may seem ordinary, but forming a system is indeed a skill that makes light of heavy tasks. An Yuqian looked at Ren Xiaosu with amusement. Then let me ask you, what do you do if you don't play mahjong? Ren Xiaosu was stunned for a moment. He couldn't answer for a while. An Yuqian walked out of the library and waved his hand. The world is so boring, isn't it good to play mahjong every day and wait for death? Ren Xiaosu smiled. That's right. After a while, An Yuqian came back. He brought a bag of steamed buns to Ren Xiaosu. Try it, the steamed buns here are very delicious. I think you are not a local and you have never eaten this steamed bun. Let me tell you, the boss lady of this steamed bun shop is very beautiful. She is nicknamed Steamed Bunzishi. Ren Xiaosu curled his lips. After seeing Yang Xiaojin take off her baseball cap, he felt that he had touched the human definition of beauty. As for the lady boss of the steamed bun shop, Ren Xiaosu had also seen her. She was definitely not as pretty as An Yuqian said. It might also be because when he walked by, he saw the chopped green onions on her face, which made him subconsciously give her a low score. An Yuqian glanced at the book in Ren Xiaosu's hand. Oh, I've also read this novel called Spare My Life, Great Lord. It's quite good. Unfortunately, only the first 2 volumes were preserved after the disaster. I don't know where the rest were lost. Ren Xiaosu glanced at him. Just take a look. You read a lot of different books, An Yuqian recalled. You read miscellaneous books in the morning and textbooks in the afternoon. I remember that you have read economic books, literature and history books, popular science books, geography books, and even comics. Yet, Ren Xiaosu nodded. What exactly do you want to read? An Yuqian suddenly asked. There must be a purpose. I divide reading into 3 categories. The first category is interest reading, which means I just like reading. The second category is benefit reading, such as reading recipes if you want to learn how to cook. The third category is utilitarian reading, such as textbooks for entrance exams and exercise books. Then this should be interest reading, Ren Xiaosu said with a smile. But what do you want to find in the book? An Yuqian said. I want to find out what the world looks like, Ren Xiaosu said seriously. I didn't have many opportunities to read books before, and I didn't have many opportunities to systematically understand the world, so I have to cherish the opportunity. Oh, An Yuqian nodded, but you still have 2 types of books that you haven't read. Which 2 types? Ren Xiaosu was stunned for a moment, and even he didn't pay attention to these. You don't read books about philosophy. I saw you take one the day before yesterday, but you put it back after reading 2 pages, An Yuqian said. Ren Xiaosu was amused. He didn't expect that An Yuqian was still observing him carefully. I just don't want to read it. Philosophy, what an interesting book, An Yuqian said regretfully. You don't even read it. I just don't want to cause myself trouble, Ren Xiaosu said with a smile. This time it was An Yuqian's turn to be stunned. He was silent for a long time before he suddenly smiled and said, It's interesting. The meaning of philosophy is to understand the world through reflection, but that is other people's understanding. It's better not to read it. But why don't you read political books? Ren Xiaosu thought for a while and said, because the original state of the world is more interesting than politics. Okay, Anyukian smacked his lips, I suddenly feel that we should have a lot in common. Ren Xiaosu said seriously again, I don't think so. Just when Anyukian was about to get angry, a voice suddenly came from the door of the library. Hello, is anyone there? I want to go to the library to read. The voice was crisp and pleasant. Anyukian looked back and his eyes lit up. I'm coming. There was a charming woman standing at the door. Her hair was curled into a big wave shape, and Ren Xiaosu could vaguely see the earrings hanging down to her cheeks, like a secret temptation. The other party was wearing thin high heels and waiting for Anyukian to check the library card. Anyukian said, Ms. Jo Yingsu, right? Yes, Jo Yingsu nodded. Okay, that's all. Anyukian read out, books in this library cannot be borrowed. If there are any damaged books, please contact me immediately. I hope you can cherish the books here. After all, many books cannot be found outside. Well, thank you, Jo Yingsu said with a gentle smile. Anyukian's soul was about to be taken away. If you need anything, just call me. At this time, Jo Yingsu slowly walked to the opposite side of Ren Xiaosu and sat down. She looked at Ren Xiaosu and smiled. Hello. Ren Xiaosu looked up and said, Hello, Auntie. Anyukian beside him was anxious. How could this child talk like that? If the matchmaker tied a steel bar to you, you would probably break it. Chapter 316 Controlled Fusion. When Jo Yingsu heard Ren Xiaosu calling her aunt, she couldn't hold back. She was 25 years old and in the prime of her youth. How could she be an aunt? Of course, Ren Xiaosu didn't really think Jo Yingsu was old. He just saw her on the street. The Secret Service was following Ren Xiaosu's actions and thought they were flawless and not discovered. They even thought Ren Xiaosu was stupid and didn't notice their actions at all. But in fact, Ren Xiaosu was just too lazy to pay attention to them and wanted to recover from his injuries. Besides, you can also replace some nano-warriors to follow him. Ordinary people are not worth Ren Xiaosu's interest. But Jo Yingsu is not an ordinary person. She smiled and said, I'm almost your sister. Are you familiar with this library? No, Ren Xiaosu shook his head. Jo Yingsu paused. You come to this library every day for almost half a month, and you still say you are not familiar with it? She continued to smile and said, I want to find a book called Introduction to Time. Do you know where it is? Ren Xiaosu looked up at her. He had already shown an attitude of keeping people at a distance, but the other party was trying to force a conversation. As a result, at this moment, the palace said, Task, find the correct location of the book for the Seeker of Knowledge. Ren Xiaosu was stunned. This task was not given earlier or later, but at this time, and the task specifically stated that it must be in the correct location. He couldn't point randomly, but he really didn't know where the book was. The task had to be done. He glanced at Jo Yingsu and tried, Introduction to Time must be in this library. Why don't you look for it yourself? Jo Yingsu was stunned. Why didn't you say that the book was in the 88th barrier? Of course I know that the book is in this library. But Ren Xiaosu didn't care so much. Anyway, he thought, the palace required the correct location, and he couldn't be wrong if he said that the book was in this library, right? Guanggong said, the mission is completed, and the reward is the basic skill learning map. Ren Xiaosu almost wanted to give himself a chicken leg for his intelligence. When it comes to taking advantage of the loopholes in the mission, I'm afraid no one can compare to him. Seeing the awkward atmosphere, Anyukian quickly saved the situation and found the book Introduction to Time and handed it to Jo Yingsu. Jo Yingsu was so angry that she wanted to vent but couldn't. At this time, a group of people came in from outside the library. They were Wang Yuqi and others. But Wang Yuqi and others came to the table where Ren Xiaosu was. When they saw Jo Yingsu, they were stunned for a moment. This was their table in the past because they would gather here to study. If Jo Yingsu sat here, there would be a stranger stuck between them, which would feel very awkward, and they would have to be very careful when talking. It must be said that they often talked about some secrets. After all, they knew too much and would mention them intentionally or unintentionally. Jo Yingsu knew that these people should want to sit with Ren Xiaosu, but she always pretended to read seriously and planned to sit here without moving. Someone wanted to ask Zhou Yingsu if they could change seats, but Wang Yuqi stopped them. This library is a public place. There is no reason for us to disturb others reading. Ren Xiaosu put away the books in front of him and said, "Let's change tables." There are many tables in the library. It is a large venue in itself, and there is not only this table, so a large group of people rushed to another table, leaving Zhou Yingsu sitting there alone with a book. In addition, in order to pretend to be a real reader and not arouse Ren Xiaosu's suspicion, Zhou Yingsu sat there and read the introduction to Time for an entire afternoon. It is unknown whether she read it well. Zhou Yingsu was a little depressed. There were countless people pursuing her, but why was she not attractive in front of a young man? Exclamation mark. Is there something wrong with this boy? Exclamation mark. After that day, Zhou Yingsu never wandered around Ren Xiaosu again, and even followed him less frequently. Sometimes she would only stare at Ren Xiaosu once every few days. On the other hand, An Yuqian's teaching progress has been accelerated. An Yuqian also sighed that he had never thought that teaching students would be such an easy thing. When he was a tutor teaching students before, he always felt that those students were dumber than each other. At this time, Ren Xiaosu suddenly realized that An Yuqian might have been a researcher, and later became a librarian for some reason. He could ask Yang Xiaojun when he had time. Maybe Yang Xiaojun knew. During the learning process, Wang Yuqi and his classmates would occasionally draw the drawings of the encapsulated armor during class breaks. Now that the delay of their control of the nanorobots has been reduced to less than 0.2 seconds, they would occasionally imagine what they would look like when they put on the encapsulated armor in the future. Just thinking about it makes them excited. When they designed the drawings of the arms and palms, An Yuqian accidentally saw it and laughed. "So you want to design this kind of thing? I tell you, it's impossible." Ren Xiaosu looked up at An Yuqian. "Why? How many people want to design the so-called mecha, imagining that this single soldier combat weapon can play a big role on the battlefield? But there are too many problems to overcome," An Yuqian said. Ren Xiaosu asked with interest, "What are the difficulties?" "First of all, you can't solve the problem of power," An Yuqian sneered. "Where in the world is there such a powerful portable energy? There is only one kind of such energy in the world, controlled nuclear fusion." Ren Xiaosu is stunned. The organization that Yang Xiaojun belonged to was the thugs who hated nuclear energy the most. As a result, he installed a controlled nuclear fusion device on the external armor. Would the entire thug come to hunt him down? Are there any other energy sources? Ren Xiaosu asked. An Yuqian said categorically, "No. At least not in the known technology. The raw materials for fusion are deuterium and tritium. If the technology is advanced enough, only deuterium will do. There is a lot of deuterium in water, but the existing controlled nuclear fusion schemes such as the tokamak, how to reduce the size of this device to a load that the human body can bear, this is a very difficult problem to solve. The larger the visible radius of the device, the better the energy confinement performance. It's not impossible to reduce it, it's just difficult." An Yuqian smiled and looked at Ren Xiaosu and the others. "Just relying on you guys to do this, it's like a dream." Ren Xiaosu frowned. The energy source of the nanorobot has always been something he is entangled with. After all, relying solely on the bioenergy in his body to charge, it is simply charging for 2 hours and using for 2 minutes, which can't support high-intensity combat at all. Are there any other difficulties that cannot be overcome? Ren Xiaosu asked. And how do you command the full-body armor to listen to your instructions? How complicated the program must be. An Yuqian said. Ren Xiaosu interrupted. This is easy to solve. An Yuqian. What are you bragging about? Exclamation mark. However, Ren Xiaosu didn't plan to say more. Now, no one in the Yang or Li companies uses nanorobots as external armor, mainly because it is a bit too luxurious to use them like this. Please give me a monthly ticket. Please give me a monthly ticket. Chapter 317 Meeting Li Yuan again. An Yuqian was very unacceptable to Ren Xiaosu's boasting. Do you know what programmable matter means? Ren Xiaosu glanced at An Yuqian. What does it mean? Programmable matter is a kind of intermediate state material block that changes its physical properties according to user commands or autonomous sensing methods, An Yuqian said in a high voice. Ren Xiaosu pondered for a moment. Speak human language. In short, An Yuqian said, if you want to build this kind of outer armor, then its components must at least have the ability to deform and self-assemble. Without programmable matter, you can't flexibly combine and separate autonomously. Well, Ren Xiaosu said calmly, don't worry about that. And Yukian was almost crazy, don't you understand human language? Don't worry about such an important thing. To be honest, except for the energy issue that Ren Xiaosu couldn't solve, he could solve all the other things, and Yukian said. The so-called programmable matter, nanorobots can already do better. Ren Xiaosu realized that Yukian must not have been an expert in nanorobot research, otherwise he would not have been unaware of the progress made by nanorobots, and he was definitely not a core member of the Yang family. But how did Yukian fall to this point? Although Ren Xiaosu's knowledge was still far from academic, he could feel Yukian's stubbornness and pride in the face of science. What made Yukian willing to be a small librarian here? In the following days, Yukian no longer entangled in the so-called energy and programmable materials, but concentrated on teaching and playing mahjong. Ren Xiaosu encouraged Wang Yuqi and others to go home to design armor at night, and to find Yukian to solve technical problems during class breaks during the day. Yukian was willing to help them solve them one by one. Yukian thought that if he helped Ren Xiaosu solve all the problems, when the other party encountered the problems he mentioned, he would find out how wise he was. He felt that Ren Xiaosu didn't care about the technology of programmable materials now, entirely because Ren Xiaosu's level was not enough and he had not encountered this technical bottleneck. After all, how could a student who is 1 year higher in school understand his foresight and his position in the academic world? Thinking of this, Yukian even wanted to force Ren Xiaosu to give him extra lessons, so that Ren Xiaosu could understand how awesome he was earlier. One day, when Ren Xiaosu was about to pick up yesterday's textbook to study, he suddenly found a notebook next to the textbook. He didn't remember seeing this thing before. Ren Xiaosu took out a notebook, and inside it was a carefully organized study sequence and key points of knowledge. It was clear who wrote it at a glance. It must be Yukian. Ren Xiaosu turned around and looked at Yukian with amusement. It was hard for this guy to be mysterious. Is this your notebook? Yukian was embarrassed for a while. Oh, I just found something from the past, and thought that someone might need it. If you need it, take it. It's just right for you. Some high school courses are deliberately simplified. If you want to study step by step, you will go through some repetitive paths. It's better to just follow the method I learned back then. Thank you. How much is it? Ren Xiaosu said, and he was ready to pay. As a result, Yukian was furious. I didn't give you the notebook for money. After that, Yukian went to the door to guard the door angrily. Ren Xiaosu returned to his seat with a smile. It must be said that after Yukian's guidance, the outer armor became more and more beautiful. In Yukian's words, science is an extremely mysterious subject. When a design is closer to being reasonable, it will have a unique sense of beauty. That is the beauty that can truly conquer the soul. Wait, Ren Xiaosu suddenly remembered that he had just obtained a basic level learning map. This thing can't learn extraordinary abilities, but it is still very useful for learning ordinary skills. Originally, he wanted to see Yang Xiaojin before using it, but Ren Xiaosu suddenly realized that why should he go to Yang Xiaojin to learn, when there is Yukian in front of him to learn? You know, Yang Xiaojin's math and physics skills are definitely not as good as those of Yukian, who is a professional academic. It's not that Yang Xiaojin is not smart, but that everyone has their own expertise. There is no need to compare amateurs with professionals. Thinking of this, Ren Xiaosu said in his mind, use the skill map. The palace responded, randomly draw the target skill, playing mahjong, master level. The host does not have the corresponding advanced skills, and can only learn to the advanced level. Do you want to learn? Ren Xiaosu suddenly looked at Yukian. It was obviously a master level skill. Why did he lose money every day? There must be something wrong here. Is someone setting a trap to trick him? Or is the opponent cheating? Yukian noticed that Ren Xiaosu was looking at him. Why are you looking at me? Nothing. Ren Xiaosu then responded to the palace in his mind, study. Now, Ren Xiaosu's injuries have almost healed. As long as he doesn't do strenuous exercise, there will be no problem. It doesn't even hurt to walk. It's finally time to learn fighting. I don't know who the fighting teacher Yang Xiaojin arranged for him is. Yang Xiaojin told him the address. It's not far from the library. When he feels that his injuries have healed, he can go there by himself. There's a martial arts hall. In the library during the day and in the martial arts hall at night, Ren Xiaosu's life has never been more fulfilling. He went to the address given by Yang Xiaojin. The martial arts hall seemed to be in a small alley and should not be famous. Nanjing Hutong, Ren Xiaosu said, "We're here." It is indeed a small alley. Ren Xiaosu thought that if someone opened a martial arts hall in this alley, he would lose money. He might not even be able to make back the water, electricity and rent. As a result, when he arrived at the entrance of the martial arts hall, Ren Xiaosu was shocked to find that there were a lot of students inside. There were dozens of students standing in the yard of more than 200 square meters. Many parents were standing outside the door, waiting to pick up their children after class. Looking up, he saw that the door frame and plaque of the martial arts hall were carved from solid wood. It looked like they were quite old. The surface of the wood had been eroded by rain, so there were some white-gray marks. The plaque read Liu family. Ren Xiaosu wondered if he still knew the owner of the hall. He walked in and said to a coach, "Hello, I'm looking for the owner." But the coach shouted inside, "Old Liu, someone is looking for you." Liu Yuan came out. When he saw Ren Xiaosu, he smiled kindly and said, "Come in quickly, long time no see." The parents outside the door were stunned. When they saw Ren Xiaosu just now, they thought he was just an ordinary teenager, but they didn't expect that Liu Yuan would come out to greet him in person. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelists. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 318 Precious Qualities. When Ren Xiaosu saw the words Liu family, he realized that the fighting teacher Yang Xiaojin had found for him was Liu Yuan. Previously, when he was at the 109th barrier, Liu Yuan was walking leisurely in the chaos, and Yang Xiaojin was protecting him on the high-rise building. At that time, Ren Xiaosu didn't know that Liu Yuan was from the Yang family. However, Ren Xiaosu was not very clear about the relationship between Liu Yuan and Yang Xiaojin. Now there is a fierce war going on at the front line of the Yang family. Although it seems that the victory is certain, the problem is that Liu Yuan, a known extraordinary person in the consortium, why is there no frontline service? At this stage, although it is difficult for extraordinary people to do anything on the front battlefield, it is better to have them than not, and it is also good to accompany and protect the generals. Therefore, the moment Ren Xiaosu saw Liu Yuan in the barrier, he realized that Liu Yuan's relationship with Yang Xiaojin might be closer than Liu Yuan's relationship with the Yang consortium. Liu Yuan led Ren Xiaosu to the backyard. He smiled and said as he walked, "Don't be so reserved. I used to be Xiaojin's housekeeper. Xiaojin grew up under my care. You can just call me Uncle Liu. I worked for Yang Corporation in the past few years. This time, it was because of the hard drive that I was able to regain my freedom and retire." Liu Yuan was also an intelligent man. Since Yang Xiaojin trusted Ren Xiaosu, he went straight to the point and introduced himself in one sentence. "Hello, Uncle Liu," Ren Xiaosu asked. "Luo Lan is also in the barrier, why didn't you beat him up? Now he's eating and drinking for free at our place." "Haha," Liu Yuan laughed, "you have to get into the role when you're lurking, and get out of the role after lurking, otherwise you'll be trapped. I'm no longer the barrier manager of Barrier 109, and the past has nothing to do with me." Ren Xiaosu thought that this man was too ambitious. No wonder he could live here leisurely in his old age and even opened a martial arts school. "Xiaojin asked me to learn fighting from you. When do you think I should come?" "Xiaojin said that you spend the day in the library reading books, and you're only free at night, so you can come at night," Liu Yuan said. "Have you learned it before?" Ren Xiaosu thought for a while and said, "I've never learned it systematically. I just figured it out when I was surviving in the wilderness. Then I will teach you systematically, from force techniques to practical combat techniques, and then train your reaction speed and eyesight," Liu Yuan said. Ren Xiaosu was stunned for a moment. "Don't you want to learn boxing routines? Those outside." When he just entered the door, he saw many children practicing boxing routines, and they were doing a lot of very good-looking routines. As a result, Liu Yuan laughed and said, "Those are things that children learn to cheat parents of their money. Nowadays, parents feel very distressed when their children suffer a little hardship. How can they practice boxing?" Ren Xiaosu thought that you are quite honest. You can cheat money just by saying that you want to cheat money. But he heard Liu Yuan say, "The skill of exerting force needs to be trained. You have to be able to endure hardships and master your body in the process of enduring hardships. The so-called skill of exerting force means that when you punch, you can't just punch without moving your hips or waist. That kind of fist has no strength. Lu Yuan continued, the actual combat skills are the tricks of actual killing. They let you know what you should think when hitting someone, and what others may be thinking, etc. It is very complicated. What are reaction speed and eyesight? Ren Xiaosu asked. Reaction speed varies from person to person, Lu Yuan said. Everyone's reaction speed will improve after training. Of course, everyone has their own ceiling. That is to say, the heights that each person can reach are different. Ren Xiaosu asked. Yes, for example, Xiao Jin, she wants to shoot and kill a high-speed moving target, and the opportunity only lasts for a moment, which is 0.06 seconds. If you have this upper limit when you are born, then you have it. If you don't have it when you are born, then you really can't practice it, even if you are a superhuman. 0.06 seconds. Ren Xiaosu was surprised. He had never calculated time with 2 decimal places. It turned out that Yang Xiaojin's reaction speed was so terrifying. What Lu Yuan was talking about at this time was the theory of talent. When everyone practices with the same effort, they can reach a certain height, such as the master level. But if you want to break that ceiling and further become a perfect level, you need real talent, which is something that is innate. At this time, Ren Xiaosu remembered his only perfect level skill annoying, and suddenly had a toothache. Ren Xiaosu asked, can I try my reaction speed? Lu Yuan smiled and said, let's take it step by step. Don't aim too high. Since you haven't received training before, you should first hone your strength skills. Okay, Ren Xiaosu didn't argue. Since he came here with a learning attitude, he should learn well and not be complacent just because he thinks he is very good. The two came to the backyard. Lu Yuan pointed to the sandbag hanging in the middle of the yard and said, hit it with all your strength. Let me see your level. Well, Ren Xiaosu walked in front of the sandbag, and Lu Yuan suddenly saw him bend his knees slightly. The whole person suddenly exerted force as if he was one body, and the sandbag broke with a sound. Lu Yuan was stunned for a long time. This was a sandbag specially prepared for extraordinary people. But what surprised him was not Ren Xiaosu's strength. The strength of extraordinary people varies. The strength shown by Ren Xiaosu is not particularly rare. It can only be regarded as very strong, but not surprising. Of course, this was when Ren Xiaosu did not use the city destroyer. Lu Yuan was surprised that when Ren Xiaosu exerted his strength, his muscles seemed to be integrated without any flaws. Especially the action of slightly bending the back leg is crucial. Many people can't use the strength of their legs when they punch. Has he really not been trained? Moreover, he could also see that Ren Xiaosu didn't use his full strength. His left hand and arm were always in a semi-relaxed state, ready to be lifted at any time. Controlling strength is more difficult than exerting full strength. Lu Yuan suddenly asked, why didn't you use your full strength? Oh, Ren Xiaosu explained, I'm used to it. In the wilderness, I encounter wild beasts. Sometimes I don't know what attack routines they have, so I have to defend myself. Lu Yuan said, try kicking and side kicking again. As a result, Ren Xiaosu's performance still made Lu Yuan unable to find any fault. Perhaps this is also a kind of talent. Lu Yuan sighed, it seems that your life in the past was not easy. A leisurely and relaxed life cannot train such a force-generating skill. Ren Xiaosu smiled, it's mainly because I'm afraid of death. Lu Yuan also smiled, no need to learn the force-generating techniques, your force-generating techniques don't need to be taught, let's start with practical skills. Okay, Ren Xiaosu nodded. Lu Yuan waited for a long time, thinking that after he praised Ren Xiaosu, the other party would ask him if he could try his reaction speed, but Ren Xiaosu didn't say a word, and actually patiently took the time to learn from him. This is not a talent, but a person's precious quality. Chapter 319 Come and help me. The key to muscle cutting is that when the opponent loses balance, we will grab the opponent's ankle as quickly as possible, use it as a base point to hold the opponent's calf, and then create a pinch point at the armpit to exert force and compress the calf. In this way, you can apply hundreds of pounds of pressure to the tibia and fibula. The tibia is one of the strongest bones in the human body, but through this pinch point, you can easily break them. Lu Yuan said, and called a coach to practice with Ren Xiaosu. This kind of skill must be practiced in actual combat, Otherwise you can't feel the key points just by watching. The coach saw that Ren Xiaosu in front of him was skinny and didn't seem to have much strength, so he smiled and said, "Let's stop here." He thought that Ren Xiaosu might be another child of the Yang family who was sent by his family, otherwise why would the owner of the hall come up to teach him in person? So it's better not to hurt such a child. If the parents come to the door, he will be in trouble. Lu Yuan said to Ren Xiaosu, "Although it's training, I still want you to understand that the idea of movement is the idea of movement, but if you are not fast enough and not stable enough, then the idea can only be an idea." At this time, Lu Yuan said to the coach, "Do your best and don't let him lock you." "Okay," the coach agreed. After the two of them had their moves, Lu Yuan suddenly said to start. The coach was about to turn around and lock Ren Xiaosu, but found that his legs had been locked by Ren Xiaosu. The coach was stunned, and then he felt that his whole body was thrown to the ground, and then his whole leg was locked tightly in Ren Xiaosu's arms. Not only that, after Ren Xiaosu locked him, he subconsciously freed one hand to hit the coach's lower ribs, hoping to directly eliminate the opponent's fighting ability. At that moment, the coach's hair suddenly exploded all over his body, as if he was going to experience something very terrible. Lu Yuan quickly shouted, "Stop, stop, stop." All this happened so quickly that the coach hadn't reacted to what was going on, and he almost walked through the gates of hell. Only Lu Yuan could see clearly that if Ren Xiaosu's punch had landed, the coach would have been completely crippled, and his internal organs might have ruptured and he might have died. The coach stood up in a daze, but heard Lu Yuan say to Ren Xiaosu earnestly, "How can you kill someone with just one punch?" Hearing this, the coach's back was sweating. Ren Xiaosu thought for a moment and said, "Actually, I wouldn't really do it, but I felt that it would be too weak to just lock the enemy." You call the skill of effectively eliminating the opponent's ability to resist but not killing him weak. Lu Yuan's face turned strange. "Not really," Ren Xiaosu said. "The enemies we met in the wilderness were all life and death struggles, and there was basically no third situation, so I felt that breaking a leg was not enough. What if the opponent had a gun and shot me in pain? I would be dead." Lu Yuan was silent for a while. He grew up in the fortress, and the civilization of the fortress told him to forgive others when he couldn't to solve conflicts gently. But the wilderness where Ren Xiaosu lived taught him the philosophy of life that kindness equals weakness. The coach at the side suddenly felt ashamed that as a coach, he was beaten by such a thin boy without any ability to fight back, so he said, "Master, It's okay." Lu Yuan smiled and waved his hand. "It's not your problem. I will practice with him, so that nothing will happen. It's just right for you to watch from the side. This is the power of the extraordinary." As he said that, Lu Yuan took the initiative to practice with Ren Xiaosu. After all, ordinary coaches are like toys in front of Ren Xiaosu, and they are not qualified to practice with him at all. The coach was relieved at this time. It turned out that this boy was an extraordinary person. No wonder he was no match for him. It seems that the master can only take action himself. 10 minutes later, Lu Yuan slapped the floor hard. "Let go, let go, let go, I give up, I give up. It hurts, it hurts, it hurts." The coach on the side was stunned. After Lu Yuan got up from the ground, he said to Ren Xiaosu seriously, "We must learn to control our strength. Remember, we just want you to use these techniques to thoroughly understand the weaknesses of human joints. Don't use too much strength." Originally, Lu Yuan thought that as a superhuman, his strength would not be much different from Ren Xiaosu's. As a result, he overestimated himself and underestimated Ren Xiaosu. Ren Xiaosu nodded and said, "Okay, don't use too much strength." "Okay, let's stop here for today's class," Lu Yuan said. "Remember to come here every night. If you have anything, call me. Xiaoli, please write down the phone number for him." After Ren Xiaosu left, Lu Yuan suddenly held his waist. Come on, come and help me." The coach whispered, "Master, who is this young man?" Lu Yuan thought carefully for a long time and didn't know how to describe Ren Xiaosu's identity. Ren Xiaosu was on his way home at night. It was not too late. The sound of mahjong was still ringing on the street. The people of 88 Barrier did not seem to care much about the war outside. Anyway, they had already won. There were workers who had just got off work on the road. Although the barrier stipulated that they could only work for a maximum of 8 hours a day, they had never supervised the relevant factories, so many people in the barrier were not so happy. The living circle of these people in the barrier was a city. Most of them had never been out. Ren Xiaosu felt that these people were more like high-level refugees. Everyone had to serve the consortium and was busy all day, but one was in the wilderness and the other was in the barrier. In the past, Ren Xiaosu thought that the barrier should be a place where people could not lock their doors at night, there were no thieves, and everyone could trust each other, but after entering the barrier, he found that it was not the case. Suddenly, Ren Xiaosu heard a familiar voice coming from a small alley. Jiao. Ren Xiaosu walked in and found that an Yukian was sitting in a small courtyard, playing mahjong with two old ladies and an old man, playing very enthusiastically. Ren Xiaosu was confused. He originally thought that an Yukian must have been cheated in the casino, so even his master-level mahjong skills could not win. But now it seems that this is not the case at all. He observed for a while, but saw that the old man and the old lady were secretly changing cards under the table, and an Yukian seemed to see nothing. This is too stupid. If someone changed cards like this when Ren Xiaosu was playing mahjong, he would flip the table on the other person's face. And Yukian was stunned when he saw Ren Xiaosu. He said to the old man and the old lady, "Wait for me first, my friend is here to see me." As he said that, an Yukian stood up and walked to Ren Xiaosu. "Why are you here? You have such a loud voice," Ren Xiaosu said. "I can hear you shouting Jiao from 2 blocks away. Please give me a monthly ticket." Chapter 320. The only thing that can destroy humanity is humanity itself. If it weren't for an Yukian's loud voice, Ren Xiaosu would definitely not have found this place. It was an Yukian's voice that attracted him. "Is my voice that loud?" An Yukian was stunned for a moment, and then he looked at the sky. "Are you going home?" "Yes." Ren Xiaosu looked into the yard. The old men and women seemed quite happy. He curiously asked an Yukian, "They are the ones who won your money?" "Yes," an Yukian smiled. "Did you know that they secretly changed the cards?" Ren Xiaosu asked. At this time, an Yukian was silent. He pulled Ren Xiaosu out of the alley. Ren Xiaosu suddenly understood. "Are you deliberately losing money to them?" "Yes," an Yukian sighed. Ren Xiaosu suddenly realized that behind this matter, it might also involve why an Yukian lived so decadently. "You know," Ren Xiaosu asked the palace what level an Yukian's mathematics and physics were, and the palace said they were all master level. Originally, Ren Xiaosu thought it would be perfect level, but the palace said that there is no perfect level in scientific subjects, and everyone is just a master. Ren Xiaosu could understand this statement. After all, human beings are still exploring science and cannot reach the so-called perfect level. And a master of mathematics and physics actually fell to guarding the library. If you say there is no story behind this, Ren Xiaosu will definitely not believe it. Ren Xiaosu asked, "Who are they to you?" "They are the families of 2 of my former good friends. They are also my students," an Yukian said. "During an experiment, there was an accident in our laboratory. Because of my negligence, it caused an explosion. The 2 of them, as my assistants, all died in that experiment." "What experiment?" Ren Xiaosu guessed. "Nuclear test. If it was really an accident of this level, I'm afraid you wouldn't be able to see the 88th barrier," an Yukian said unhappily. "Oh," Ren Xiaosu thought an Yukian was engaged in this kind of work before. "What happened after that?" "Then I was fired and lost my job. Even my girlfriend broke up with me. Before leaving, she took away the turtles at home," an Yukian sighed. "So you are depressed?" Ren Xiaosu didn't quite understand. "What else? If it were you, what would you do?" an Yukian said. Ren Xiaosu pondered and said, "At least divide the turtle. We can each take our own wine." An Yukian. Isn't he just feeling sad? Why did he suddenly talk about dividing the turtle? He didn't know that for refugees like Ren Xiaosu, even if their relatives died, they had to go on with their lives as usual. Who has time to be sentimental? Ren Xiaosu met too many people in the market town. A family member died the day before, and the next day he had to go to the factory to continue working. The 2 walked along the long street. The street lights were dim, and an Yukian's figure looked particularly desolate. Ren Xiaosu said, "Then you deliberately lost money to them to make their lives better, right?" "Yes," an Yukian nodded. "It doesn't matter to me. I can survive anyway, but they're different. No one will take care of them without their children." "Okay," Ren Xiaosu sighed. "You are quite loyal. After all, they died because of me," an Yukian said. "Well, see you tomorrow morning." Ren Xiaosu waved and said goodbye to Yukian. He could not empathize with Yukian's sadness, but he should respect it. And Yukian suddenly stopped Ren Xiaosu and asked, "Why do you want to learn knowledge?" Ren Xiaosu turned around and said, "On the long street in the dark night, I have answered this question. But do you know what the end of science is?" And Yukian asked. "I don't know." Ren Xiaosu shook his head and said, "There is no end." And Yukian said, "That makes people despair." "What's there to despair about?" Ren Xiaosu was puzzled. And Yukian no longer seemed to be talking to Ren Xiaosu, but was talking to himself. There were creatures living on this land for 165 million years, and our human race has only been around for more than 3 million years, so there is no need to worry about natural disasters and mutations. You and I may not see the real doomsday of natural disasters in our lifetime. The only thing that can destroy humanity is humanity itself. Ren Xiaosu suddenly felt a little confused. He didn't know why Yukian said this to him, and he didn't know what Yukian had suddenly done. He asked Yukian, "Then what do you think humans will use to destroy themselves?" "Science." These two words were extremely abrupt at night, like a fate that was bound to come at the end of a long road. "Psycho." Ren Xiaosu waved his hand and went home. Horizontal ellipsis. When he returned home, Ren Xiaosu found that everyone was waiting for him in the yard. He looked at everyone's expressions and said, "Why do I feel like something bad is going to happen?" Yan Liwen came over and handed him an invitation. The font on the invitation was gold-plated, and there were intricate patterns on the corners, as well as delicate tassels extending from the hinges of the invitation. The invitation was sealed with wax, and there was an exquisite blue sheep pattern on the wax seal, which was the symbol of the Yang family. Yan Liwen said, "Someone sent it to me in the evening, saying that the Yang family invited the two of us to the manor as guests. There will be many guests that night, and they reminded us that it is best to dress more solemnly." Ren Xiaosu opened the invitation. The wording of the invitation was very polite, but everyone knew that a consortium like the Yang family suddenly invited two refugee boys, and it was definitely not as simple as wanting to get to know each other. "Should we go or not?" Yan Liwen asked in a low voice. "I feel that the Yang family has bad intentions." Hongmen banquet. Ren Xiaosu laughed cheerfully. Could there be a signal of breaking cups, and 300 swordsmen rushing out from the side? That's not the case. Yan Liwen saw that Ren Xiaosu was relaxed, and he also laughed, but this matter must be not simple. "Okay, don't think too much." Ren Xiaosu rubbed Yan Liwen's head. "I'll take you to buy clothes tomorrow morning, and let's go and see what the consortium's banquet is about." "Yes," Yan Liwen responded obediently. Ren Xiaosu suddenly asked, "Are you unhappy at school?" "No, I'm fine," Yan Liwen said with a smile. "When you lie, you will smile like this," Ren Xiaosu said. "Did your classmates exclude you and Dallin?" No, you should go and rest quickly, your injury is not healed yet." Yan Liwen pushed Ren Xiaosu into the house. Wang Fu was about to come forward and said, "I went out to exchange some gold for some money today. In order not to attract attention, I didn't exchange too much." "What are you talking about, money in the middle of the night?" Xiaosu is tired, let him rest for a while. Sister Xiao nagging behind him, "Xiaosu, have you eaten? There are some dishes at home. I'll heat them up for you. I'll also make you some scrambled tomatoes and eggs. There's also chicken soup in the pot." Ren Xiaosu smiled. This was the feeling of home. Chapter 321, Chasm in Natural Moat. After Ren Xiaosu fell asleep, Sister Xiaoyu suddenly grabbed Yan Liwen and asked, "Why didn't you tell your brother about the school?" "Sister Xiaoyu, keep your voice down," Yan Liwen said, pulling Sister Xiaoyu out. "You can't say it." "What can't you say?" "Let your brother teach those little bastards a lesson. Why did he give you and Dallin nicknames and rummage through your things?" Sister Xiaoyu was so angry. At this time, Yan Liwen whispered, "If you want to teach them a lesson, I can do it myself. But my brother came here with great difficulty for Sister Xiaojin. How can I cause trouble for him at this time?" After Yan Liwen entered the school, because of his different understanding of common sense, his classmates immediately guessed his identity as a refugee. Yang Xiaojin arranged for Yan Liwen to go to the best school in 88 barriers. The students here are not ordinary people, including many parents of students who are extremely well informed, so they have long known about the admission of refugees. At first, classmates directly called Yan Liwen a refugee, and later, as the word spread, Some people even called him and Wang Dalin hooligans. Anyway, there's only one word difference. The teacher also put Yan Liwen and Wang Dalin in the last row, and left the seats next to them empty. But from beginning to end, Yan Liwen never responded positively. For Yan Liwen, Ren Xiaosu had already paid too much for him, so it was nothing for him to pay a little for Ren Xiaosu. Early in the morning, Ren Xiaosu took Yan Liwen to buy clothes. Since someone invited him and told him to dress more solemnly, there was no need for him to be pretentious. For this reason, Wang Fu also gave all the money he had recently exchanged to Ren Xiaosu. Although he didn't know where Ren Xiaosu got the gold, Lao Wang knew very well that Ren Xiaosu had a lot of gold on him, so much that he couldn't imagine it. Sister Xiaoi repeatedly told Ren Xiaosu not to save money and to dress beautifully. However, when he arrived at the famous clothing store in the barrier, Ren Xiaosu suddenly found that there was no legendary dress in the store. "Boss," Ren Xiaosu called the boss, "do you have formal wear? Let's try it on." An old man came out with a tape measure hanging around his neck and 2 sleeves on his arms. "Do you want to buy formal wear?" Ren Xiaosu nodded. "See if there's anything we can wear." The old man looked at Ren Xiaosu and Yan Liwen carefully and suddenly said, "I'm sorry, I can't sell it to you." "Wait," Ren Xiaosu was surprised. "Why don't you sell it if you have money?" "It's really not about money," the old man patiently explained. "Our barrier stipulates that if you want to buy formal wear, you must have a public office status, and formal wear here is custom made. You two are here for some event tonight, right? It will take more than 20 days to customize it. Even if you order it now, you can't wear it." The old man spoke very politely, without any sense of superiority, but the objective facts he said made Ren Xiaosu feel helpless. Originally, he thought that Yang invited him and Yan Liwen to show him their financial strength, thinking that he, a refugee, couldn't afford formal wear. But when he got here, he realized that what Yang wanted to declare was status. Ren Xiaosu took Yan Liwen out of the store and looked for the tram stop sign to see which tram could reach Yang's manor. As a result, he looked at the stop sign for a long time, but he couldn't find the stop marked with Yang's manor on the stop sign. Ren Xiaosu asked the passersby next to him, "Hello, can I ask how to get to Qingyang Manor?" The passerby was surprised. "Qingyang Manor? Where are you going? What are you going there for?" Ren Xiaosu explained, "We are going to attend Yang's dinner tonight." "Haha," the passerby laughed, "you are so funny. You have to drive there to attend the dinner. Who would take the tram? People who live there don't need to squeeze the tram like us every day." At this time, Ren Xiaosu understood that there was no tram going there. If you want to go there, you must take the tram to the vicinity and then walk more than 10 kilometers to get there. The so-called formal wear customization and the vehicle you have to take to attend a dinner are like the gap between refugees and the consortium. Under that barrier rule, the gap between human classes is like an insurmountable chasm that cannot be filled with money. In the eyes of the consortium, money is quicksand in their hands, and power is the fortress that guards money. "Brother," Yan Liwen said dejectedly, "they are doing this on purpose." "Yes," Ren Xiaosu nodded. "I'm afraid the other party has long known that they can't buy suitable formal clothes. The consortium uses its brain to cheat people, and they are just cutting people with a blunt knife in broad daylight." Yan Liwen thought that with Yang Xiaojun around, maybe this barrier would slowly begin to accept them, so he would rather put up with himself, thinking that maybe it will be better after a while. But he suddenly realized that the other party would only get worse. Yan Liwen whispered, "Why don't we not go?" Ren Xiaosu smiled and said, "Go, why not? Before leaving the barrier, let's go and see what this consortium's banquet is all about." They went back home at noon, and saw Luolan eating and drinking in the yard. Luolan was happy to see the two of them. "Didn't you say you were going to a banquet? Why are you back so soon?" Ren Xiaosu was also happy. It was obviously a good dinner, but why did it become so cheap in Luolan's mouth? Ren Xiaosu had nothing to be embarrassed about. "We went to buy clothes in the morning, but when we got to the store, we were notified that we had to customize them in advance, and we had to have a public official status in the barrier, and the tram didn't go there." Luolan frowned when he heard this. "Didn't they invite you in advance, and didn't send a cart to pick you up?" "No," Ren Xiaosu shook his head. "These bastards are deliberately trying to cheat us." Luolan slammed the table and stood up. "This is too outrageous. I'll go with you guys later. We'll wear casual clothes, take the tram, and walk. Let's see which bastard dares to talk behind our backs." I also received an invitation, but I didn't plan to go. As he said this, Luo Lan showed the invitation in his arms, which was exactly the same as Ren Xiaosu's. Ren Xiaosu smiled and looked at Luo Lan. What are you trying to do? I can't eat your food for free, can I? Luo Lan wiped his mouth. And we're friends, friends. Aren't you afraid of being looked down upon by us? Ren Xiaosu laughed happily. Luo Lan laughed. Although I am a hostage now, I am also the most valuable hostage in the entire Southwest. They all know who Qingzhen is. It is understandable that Yang wants to hold me as a hostage, but if some insignificant little characters want to embarrass me, it depends on whether they are qualified. Even if I kill someone in this fortress, they dare not do anything to me. Now the one who is in charge of Qing clan is Qingzhen, and Qingzhen will take revenge. That's my brother. Chapter 322 Visitors from the Barrier 178. In the afternoon, Ren Xiaosu, Yan Luoyun, and Luo Lan went out in a swagger. Yan Luoyun was a little worried at first, but after Luo Lan joined him, he suddenly felt a lot more relaxed. It must be said that this fat man who can eat a lot is quite righteous at times. The three of them set off after lunch, first taking a tram to a place called Fuxing Road, and then taking another tram to continue north. They were wearing ordinary clothes, so there was nothing to be embarrassed about. When they reached the terminal, they had to continue walking north. Luo Lan suddenly said, "How about Ren Xiaosu, why don't you come with me to the Qing family's territory in a while?" Ren Xiaosu looked at Luo Lan. "Why? I know you are not an ordinary person. Ordinary people will not experience the destruction of 3 barriers and still be fine. Of course, I don't want to use you for anything. You can do whatever you want in the Qing family's territory," Luo Lan said carelessly. "Of course, if you are willing to help us, I can let Qingzhen pay you." Ren Xiaosu laughed happily and said, "No, I'm not used to living in the barrier." When he said this, Yan Luoyun's eyes lit up. He found that Ren Xiaosu had decided to go, but he didn't know where Ren Xiaosu decided to go. But it didn't matter to Yan Luoyun where to go. He could follow Ren Xiaosu to occupy the mountain and become the king. Of course, this would have to wait for Ren Xiaosu to recuperate for a while, and wait for the right opportunity. Now Yang's family might not let them go. At this time, Luo Lan said, "You are not used to living in the fortress, so I will arrange for you to live in the market town. You all lived in the market town before, right? This is not a problem." This sentence suddenly moved Ren Xiaosu. Humans are social animals. If they become friends with Luo Lan and Qingzhen, it seems that many problems will be solved. Ren Xiaosu did not answer this question directly. He smiled and said, "Why don't you think about how to leave here? I don't think Yang will let you go back." "That doesn't matter," Luo Lan said nonchalantly. "Qingzhen will definitely arrange someone to save me. I will just wait for him. When the time comes, if you want to leave Yang's fortress, come with me." This time, Ren Xiaosu felt that the information revealed by Luo Lan was very crucial. Qingzhen would definitely save Luo Lan, and at that time he could take Xiao and the others with him. Ren Xiaosu suddenly felt that the intimacy between Luo Lan and Qingzhen was like that between him and Yan Luoyun. They didn't need to pass any information to each other, but they firmly believed that the other party would do something for them. This is a kind of tacit understanding and trust that can be entrusted with life and property, just like when he was at the 108th barrier. Even if the experimental subjects behind him were about to catch up, Yan Luoyun would die with him. Thinking of this, Ren Xiaosu felt that this fat man Luo was a little more friendly. Suddenly, several cars passed by them. Going north was the Qingyang manor of the Yang family. It seemed that these people were going to attend the dinner. Luo Lan noticed Ren Xiaosu's gaze and explained with a smile, "Don't look at them driving such a nice car and attending such a nice dinner. People who attend such banquets are generally so-called celebrities, such as the director of the logistics department and the director of the commerce department. They look decent on weekdays, but when they are really in trouble, they may be worse than dogs." Ren Xiaosu was stunned for a moment. Yan Luoyun seemed to have killed the director of the logistics department of the Li family on the way to escape. Thinking of this, Ren Xiaosu really looked down on these people. In the era of the rise of the extraordinary, absolute power seems to have begun to affect the original social order. Ren Xiaosu also realized that when he looked at these people, he would have a condescending mentality in his heart. Ren Xiaosu shook his head. This is the mentality that comes with the expansion of power. He still needs to be more sober. After all, it is not time to expand. As for Luolan, he used to be the actual controller of the 113th barrier. Naturally, he looked down on the so-called celebrities and a barrier. As long as the fat man returned to the Qing family safely, it was foreseeable that he would become one of the most powerful people in the world. Of course, whether he could go back or not was another matter. One luxury car after another passed by them, and no one would stop the car to laugh at them for walking here. Everyone was very busy, and no one even thought that they were going to attend the dinner. In contrast, the celebrities were dressed in fancy clothes and sat in luxury cars to attend the dinner, while Ren Xiaosu and his friends walked there and wore casual clothes. The person in the Yang family who invited them here seemed to want to tell him in this way that he hit his heart directly that refugees had no chance to integrate into that class. When they arrived at the gate, the security guards came over to check the invitations. Luolan handed them out. Ren Xiaosu could see that the other party was surprised for a moment, so he politely opened the door and let them in. Luolan walked inside and smiled. The guard dogs of these wealthy families are very smart. As long as you have an invitation, no matter what you wear, he will not offend you, because your invitation is given by his master. Many people were already standing on the lawn of the manor. They were toasting each other, and each of them held a crystal-clear high-heeled glass in his hand. If Ren Xiaosu had not seen it with his own eyes, he would not believe that the people here were so different from the lives of the refugees outside. Luolan grabbed a servant, took 3 glasses of wine from the other party's tray, and handed them to Ren Xiaosu and Yan Limuan. As soon as Yan Limuan took the wine glass, Ren Xiaosu snatched it from his hand. "Why drink wine, a child?" As he said, Ren Xiaosu put the glass on the table next to him. At this moment, he suddenly heard someone talking. "I heard that an important person from the Zhuang family came tonight. Do you know who it is?" Someone asked. "It is said that he is a young rookie who has already held a high position in the Zhuang family and is in charge of the garrison of the entire 141 Fortress 141 is the Zhuang family's old nest," someone said. Luolan whispered beside him, "This garrison is where the children of the consortium stay." A group of useless people gathered together. But someone said, "But I heard that the guest of honor today is not from the Zhuang family." "Ah, not from the Zhuang family?" "Yes. It seems that someone from the 178 fortress has also come. It is said that he is a popular person around Zhangjinglan now. He came to discuss the joint defense with our Yang family and the Zhuang family," the person who spoke replied. "I heard that it is not a joint defense. It seems that they are going to work together to eliminate the banditry in the no man's land and reopen the trade route of the 3 families. Please give me a monthly ticket. Please give me a monthly ticket." Chapter 323 Speechless. Listening to the discussion around him, Ren Xiaosu didn't expect that today's dinner would be so important. It was also the beginning of the thaw in the relationship between the Yang family, the Zhuang family, and the 178th barrier. Luolan, who was standing next to him, cursed in a low voice, "Damn it, this old man from the Yang family is joining forces with the Zhuang family and the 178th barrier to put pressure on my Qing family." The seemingly carefree Luolan immediately thought of what the Yang family was going to do. Now there was no suspense on the battlefield on the Li family's side, and it was about to be settled. But before the war was over, the Yang family began to plot against the Qing family. As the saying goes, if you don't think about the future, you will have immediate worries. Yang Yuan thought about the layout of this war very long term. At this time, he wanted to immediately unite the Zhuang family and the 178th barrier to put pressure on the Qing family after the fall of the Li family. The Yang family in the north can unite with the Zhuang family and the 178th barrier, while the Qing family was squeezed into a corner and fought alone. In fact, the Qing family is close to the central plains in the east, but the natural mountain road barrier not only protects the Qing family, but also blocks the Qing family's idea of uniting with other forces. If the Yang family succeeds, I am afraid that the Qing family will become a lone piece on the entire chessboard. Everyone in the northwest region will target him, and then the Qing family will be the next Li family. When fighting the Li family, Qing Zhen sent Luolan to unite with the Yang family, but the Yang family turned around and used this trick on Qing Zhen. But what Luolan was more concerned about was, these old guys actually invited me to this kind of dinner. It seems that they really don't intend to let me go back. Ren Xiaosu looked at him. "Then what are you going to do?" "It's okay, Qing Zhen will find a way." Luolan drank the wine in the glass. Anyway, I'm a hostage. These country bumpkins can't deal with Qing Zhen. The only thing to be careful of is the 178th barrier. I told Qing Zhen to kill Zhang Jinglin secretly, but he refused to listen. Now it's good. Ren Xiaosu thought for a while and said, is it possible that Qing Zhen knows more than you think? Luo Lan was stunned for a moment. It's possible. After all, my brother is much smarter than me. At this time, Ren Xiaosu found that Luo Lan had a habit, that is, no matter where he went, he would subconsciously praise his brother Qing Zhen. But Ren Xiaosu suddenly thought that after he gave the letter of introduction to Su Xianshu, he didn't know whether Su Xianshu went to the 178th barrier, and he didn't know how Su Xianshu was doing there. No one mentioned Su Xianshu to him. Although he always blamed Su Xianshu, it was also forced by life. In his heart, Ren Xiaosu really liked Su Xianshu because he was very sincere to his friends. When Su Xianshu fled to the barrier and met him, he asked Ren Xiaosu if he wanted to eat, even though he had only half a steamed bread left. Therefore, Ren Xiaosu sincerely hoped that Su Xianshu could make a difference in the 178 barrier and have a good future. Luo Lan suddenly looked at Ren Xiaosu. Aren't you on good terms with Zhang Jinglin? Go and tell him that my Qing family will join forces with the 178 barrier to eliminate the Yang family and the Zhuang family. Ren Xiaosu raised his eyebrows. My relationship with him is not that good, don't even think about it. Haha, I just said that, Luo Lan laughed. The celebrities around him toasted with people they knew, and some even introduced their friends to others. This is probably how small circles are formed. Everyone makes friends with people who may have interests, and then they form a big network together. At this time, someone noticed Ren Xiaosu and the others, and laughed softly. Look at those three people in plain clothes. I saw them walking here on the way here. I don't know how they got in. Haha, I saw it too. They must have been invited to get in. I just don't know who gave them the invitation. These people spoke in a low voice, and Ren Xiaosu and the others couldn't hear them, but Ren Xiaosu's senses were very sharp. He could tell from the glances those people inadvertently cast at him that they were discussing him. As for what they were discussing, he could guess it with his toes. Slowly, more and more people around them focused their attention on Ren Xiaosu and the others, and everyone whispered as if they had found a good topic to talk about. But their voices were very low, in order to avoid embarrassment for Ren Xiaosu and the others to hear. This is what they call demeanor and cultivation. Yan Liwen was in this gorgeous feast, and beautiful lights were shining on the lawn from all around. If possible, he would rather look down at it from the air, rather than being in it and listening to the worldly discussions around him. The people around him seemed to have put on hypocritical masks, and then hid behind the masks and laughed and commented on him. He once dreamed of entering the barrier with Ren Xiaosu, but that dream seemed so ridiculous when he recalled it now. In fact, the barrier wasn't that great. Or rather, this wasn't the world he liked. Luo Lan looked around, then looked at Yan Liwen's dejected eyes, and suddenly shouted, "Where the hell are you looking? Who said you have to wear formal attire to attend a dinner? Can't I wear casual clothes?" A middle-aged man frowned and said, "Please be civilized. This is an upper-class occasion, and you can't act wild." Luo Lan was so angry that he laughed. He walked up and slapped the man in the face, then said viciously, "How can you talk to me? I noticed you just now, and you're the one who laughs the most happily." Everyone around seemed to be stunned by Luo Lan's slap. They really didn't expect that someone would hit someone at this gorgeous dinner. The middle-aged man covered his face and said in a daze, "Do you know who I am?" Luo Lan smiled. "Are you going to reveal your identity now? Why, a grown man won't fight back after being beaten. Where's your blood? You're a woman." The middle-aged man said angrily, "I am the director of the order department of this number 88 fortress." Luo Lan narrowed his eyes slightly. "Then do you know who I am?" As he spoke, Luo Lan looked around like a dangerous tiger. Everyone knows Qing Zhen, the quiet tiger of the Qing family, but they don't know that Luo Lan has restrained something in order to make Qing Zhen more dazzling. He said that he had a miserable life, so he deserved to give all the good things in the world to Qing Zhen. But a tiger is a tiger, that is something in his bones, and it will eventually show up. Luo Lan sneered, "Listen carefully, my name is Luo Lan, who dares to touch me?" The crowd suddenly became excited. Everyone in the 88th barrier knew that Luo Lan was here. Although Yang had him under house arrest, Qing Zhen had become the head of the Qing family. If Luo Lan was alive, it would be fine. If Luo Lan died, who would bear Qing Zhen's anger? At this moment, the crowd suddenly became quiet for a moment, just like tens of thousands of flies suddenly lost their voices. The crowd looked to the end of the lawn, where there was a girl in casual clothes. Chapter 324 Two Weeds. Under the watchful eyes of the crowd, Yang Xiaojun walked towards Ren Xiaosu wearing a peaked cap. All the celebrities of 88 Barrier knew who that was. The boy, who was also wearing sportswear, stood on the lawn in a daze. He didn't expect such a turn of events today. He thought he would see the other party wearing a grand dress, appearing as dazzling as stars. At that moment, I'm afraid that the stars would be eclipsed. So, he came here today to enjoy the scene. But the reality exceeded Ren Xiaosu's imagination. Not only did Yang Xiaojun not wear any dress, but she changed into white sportswear with red letters that matched his color very well, while he was wearing blue. The boy's dream probably had a similar plot of a hero saving a beauty, but the world seemed to be joking with Ren Xiaosu. He only saved the other party once, but the other party stood by him again and took him out of the sea of suffering. In the banquet venue, everyone held a champagne in a daze and saluted like a bystander. Maybe it was an illusion. Ren Xiaosu felt that everyone around him had turned into sculptures, the world was no longer noisy, and time had stopped for a short time. Both of them were the same, and they seemed a little out of tune with the neat lawn, smooth stone steps, and exquisite decorations here. At this moment, Ren Xiaosu suddenly felt that he was wrong. Yang Xiaojun was never the princess of the consortium as he imagined, but a weed that was willing to grow freely in the wilderness like him. Ren Xiaosu said in a daze, "Why are you wearing this?" But before he finished speaking, Yang Xiaojun suddenly leaned forward slightly in front of everyone's eyes and grabbed Ren Xiaosu's hand. "Let's go, it's boring here, let's go out for a walk." The girl took Ren Xiaosu and disappeared from everyone's sight. It was only then that the glaciers in the air seemed to begin to melt. Someone whispered, "Who is that boy?" Yan Liwen quietly watched Ren Xiaosu and Yang Xiaojun leave. He was going to follow them, but at this moment he felt that the two were like the protagonists on the stage, and he should quietly stand in the darkness outside the stage and watch. He knew how hard Ren Xiaosu's life was. After Ren Xiaosu was injured, Yan Liwen felt that he should understand. So when the hard times finally paid off, he knew that he shouldn't disturb Ren Xiaosu's hopes. He had told Ren Xiaosu before that if Yang Xiaojun didn't come to find them, they wouldn't go to the 88 Barrier. Now Yang Xiaojun has shown with her actions that she can do more. In this case, what else can Yan Liwen say? He is willing to sacrifice his personal wishes for Ren Xiaosu's happiness. Isn't it just a little bit of grievance in the barrier? It's nothing. Luo Lan can be a stupid fat man with a bad life for Qing Zhen, so he, Yan Liwen, can do the same. Thinking of this, Yan Liwen suddenly felt that Luo Lan beside him was much more friendly. "Hey, fatty, let's go back first." Luo Lan cursed and said, "Who are you calling fatty, little brat? Come on, I'll take you home." Yang Xiaojun, who had walked out of the crowd sight, suddenly let go of her hand. She hesitated and said, "Just now." Ren Xiaosu smiled and said, "Thank you for helping us out." Yang Xiaojun seemed to be relieved. "You don't have to worry about them. They are still immersed in the world they created and are complacent, but you and I both know that this world is going to change." "Yet," Ren Xiaosu responded. "You haven't eaten yet?" Yang Xiaojun asked. "Yes," Ren Xiaosu laughed. "I had agreed with Luo Lan that we would eat your family out of money tonight, but I came out early. Let's go, I'll take you to a small shop to eat wontons, they're delicious." Yang Xiaojun said, "I just happened to tell you that we're leaving for the northwest in 7 days. Ren Xiaosu asked in confusion, "Why are we going to the northwest? To the 178th Barrier?" "No," Yang Xiaojun said, "we're fighting bandits together with the Zhuang family. This operation was jointly arranged by the Yang and Zhuang consortiums. It's not about completely eradicating the bandit problem, but just killing a certain number of bandits and coming back." "Who else is going with you?" Ren Xiaosu asked curiously. "There are also people from the Zhuang family," Yang Xiaojun said calmly. "You must be careful and safe on the road. Don't trust anyone except me." Ren Xiaosu was stunned. He suddenly recalled the time on Jingshan Road. The two of them didn't trust each other at that time, but they formed a short-term alliance. Looking back now, that alliance seems to be pretty good. No one mentioned the hand-holding just now. The stars in the night sky were bright, just right for a midnight snack. Horizontal ellipsis. The turmoil at the banquet did not end with the departure of Ren Xiaosu and his friends. Everyone started discussing it as if they had found some new gossip. Many high-level people knew what the dinner was about today. A young man who was said to be a supernatural person came to the northern Zhuang clan. He was young and promising, and Yang Yuan arranged for Yang Xianjun and the Zhuang Cheng to go to suppress the bandits together. The intention was very straightforward. Everyone was not stupid. The dinner had not started yet. Yang Yuan, the representative of the 178th barrier, and the young man from the Zhuang clan were still discussing things in the villa. Only when the serious matters were discussed and Yang Yuan and his friends walked out of the villa, the dinner would officially begin. But before the dinner started, one of the protagonists ran away with others. This was not running away with others, but running away with others. At this time, Yang Yuan walked out of the villa with two young men. He smiled at everyone in the room, took a glass of champagne calmly and said with a smile, "What's wrong with you? Are you discussing something interesting?" Someone hesitated and said, "Your niece left with a teenager." Yang Yuan's expression did not change, still keeping a smile, and said, "Oh? What kind of teenager?" At this time, someone secretly sighed that Yang Yuan was very cunning, and he could remain calm. Someone answered, "I don't know where he came from. Luo Lan came with him, wearing casual clothes." Yang Yuan took a deep breath and smiled at Zhuang Cheng and Su Xianchu beside him. "Zhuang Cheng, Brother Su, I'm sorry to make you laugh. I have to take care of my family affairs." Su Xianchu smiled indifferently. "What's the matter? Who kidnapped your niece?" "A refugee named Ren Xiaosu, not worth mentioning," Yang Yuan explained. As a result, Su Xianchu was stunned at this time. He suddenly asked everyone else in the room, "Where did Ren Xiaosu go? Which direction did he go?" Everyone in the banquet was confused. What the hell was going on? It was a mess. "He went to the south." Su Xianchu apologized to Yang Yuan. "I'm sorry, Chairman Yang, Ren Xiaosu is my good brother. We haven't seen each other for a long time and he was kind to me. I have to go find him first, and we'll talk about our business tomorrow." With that, Su Xianchu chased after him. Chapter 325 Commander Zhang. The originally noisy dinner scene suddenly became silent. Everyone held their breath, as if waiting for someone else to break the deadlock. A servant suddenly became nervous and accidentally knocked down a champagne tower on a table. The crashing and restless sound broke the original silence. A group of people were busy cleaning up the venue, and the guests suddenly breathed a sigh of relief. With the collapse of the champagne tower, the originally somewhat solidified atmosphere finally broke. Someone asked, "Uncle Sen, was that the representative sent by the 178th fortress just now?" Yang Yuan handed the champagne in his hand to the servant who was narrating. He was no longer in the mood to drink. It was him, Su Xianchu. Everyone knew that the guest of honor tonight was actually this Su Xianchu. The southwest region was in flames, but the 178th fortress was still standing there, as if it was not interested in the war in the southwest at all. However, its silence did not mean that others could ignore it. People who are a little older know that there are a group of beasts hidden in that fortress. Other barriers are called barriers, and only Barrier 178 is occasionally called a fortress in private, as if it is the only one that is qualified to receive such a title. When a real all-out war comes, the magnificent fortress will be like a sophisticated war machine, with huge and powerful gears meshing with each other, and then destroying everything that can threaten the fortress. Of course, many people have never really seen that the status of Barrier 178 in the northwest has long been more and more divine. Therefore, compared with Zhuang Cheng of the Zhuang family, Yang Yuan must be more concerned about the attitude of Barrier 178, but now the representative of Barrier 178 has left. "Did you invite the boy named Ren Xiaosu?" Someone asked. "Who is he, and why does Su Xianchu care about him so much?" Yang Yuan frowned. He knew from the intelligence that Ren Xiaosu had traveled with Su Xianchu on the road to Jingshan, but Ren Xiaosu was just a refugee. He almost ignored this refugee and only thought that the boy was a refugee who accidentally got involved in trouble. However, he did not expect that his niece would look at Ren Xiaosu differently, and even Su Xianchu regarded him as a good friend. This must be a very important friend, a close friend that he really wanted to see, to leave such an important dinner party, right? However, Yang Yuan did not say much. He smiled and looked at the guests and said, "There was a little episode at the dinner party, but I hope this incident will not affect your interest. Everyone, please continue." This sentence meant that he did not want to talk more. The guests were very tactful. After all, everyone was begging for food under the Yang family, and Yang Yuan was now the second in command of the entire Yang family consortium. No one would go against him for a little gossip. But after tonight, the name Ren Xiaosu is likely to be widely circulated, and some fabrications will be added to make tonight's story even more bizarre. Yang Yuan looked at Zhuang Cheng beside him. I wanted to introduce you to Xiao Jin tonight, but unfortunately, she left with her friends. I think she had something important to do. But don't worry, after all, you will go to the Northwest together next week, and there will be more opportunities to meet. Zhuang Cheng has regular features, eye-catching sword eyebrows, and a sharp spirit all over his body. He smiled and said, Uncle Yang, don't worry, I will get along well with Xiao Jin. When Ren Xiaosu returned to his residence in the evening, he saw Su Xianchu standing at the door of their house, as if waiting for something. At this time, the moment Ren Xiaosu saw Su Xianchu, he understood that the representative sent by 178 barrier to Yang's side was Su Xianchu. Su Xianchu became excited when he saw Ren Xiaosu. He raised his arms and waved, Xiaosu. Xiaosu. Ren Xiaosu also smiled. Why didn't you go in and sit down? How did you find my house? I chased you out of the dinner party, but I didn't catch up with you. I had to go back and ask the people of Yang's where you lived before I ran over here, Su Xianchu said with a smile. Come on, let's go home and sit down. Ren Xiaosu pulled Su Xianchu in. For some reason, Ren Xiaosu felt a sense of familiarity towards Su Xianchu. Perhaps his sincerity would be felt, and no one would refuse such a friendship. Thinking of this, Ren Xiaosu secretly made up his mind that he should try his best not to let Su Xianchu take the blame for him in the future. Ren Xiaosu asked, have you been to Barrier 178? How is your life? I have to thank you for the letter of introduction. Su Xianchu was sitting on a stone bench in the yard. Sister Xiaoyu brought him a cup of tea. Su Xianchu smiled at Sister Xiaoyu and said, thank you. Ren Xiaosu asked curiously, have you met Zhang Jinglin? You are the only one who calls him by his name directly. Su Xianchu laughed. We all call him Commander Zhang. Oh, Ren Xiaosu nodded. It seems that Zhang Jinglin really has the final say in Barrier 178. He asked again, what did he say after seeing the letter of introduction? He didn't say anything, Su Xianchu said. After he learned that I was a transcendent, he sent me to the grassroots level and let me get familiar with the brothers below. Then he found out that I was a good person, so he quickly promoted me. How is Barrier 178? This is one of the issues that Ren Xiaosu cares about most. Everyone there is talented and they talk in a friendly way. I like it very much, Su Xianchu said with a smile. By the way, Xiaosu, why don't you go to the 178th barrier? Commander Zhang often talks about you. Maybe I'll go and have a look when I have the chance in the future, Ren Xiaosu said. At this moment, a voice floated over the wall. Xiaosu, ask him if he is here to form an alliance with the Yang family to fight our Qing family. Ren Xiaosu was stunned for a moment. This was clearly Luo Lan's voice. He and Su Xianchu turned their heads and saw Luo Lan's big head slowly rising from behind the wall. It was so weird. Su Xianchu was stunned. He knew Luo Lan too well. Xiaosu, how come you are his neighbor? Don't worry about him. He is under house arrest here, and I am not, Ren Xiaosu said. Hey, Xiaosu, ask him for me, Luo Lan said anxiously. However, before Ren Xiaosu could respond this time, Su Xianchu answered first, I'm not here to form an alliance with the Yang family. We at 178 Barrier will not form an alliance with any financial group. Luo Lan was obviously relieved. That's fine. I was the one who sent Zhang Jinglin away in person. Don't forget this friendship. Ren Xiaosu thought that Fatty Luo was really shameless. In the evening, he said that he had advised Qingzhen to kill Zhang Jinglin directly. Ren Xiaosu looked at Su Xianchu. Then why did you come to 88 Barrier this time? I'm here to discuss the joint suppression of bandits with the Yang and Zhuang families. Commander Zhang wants to reopen the trade channel. Please give me a monthly ticket. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.